Hello, everyone. This is Scarlett Johnson, and this is Moms for Liberty Unleashed. And I'm here today with a young Gen Z first-time author. His name is Jakob Feinstein, and he's 27 years old. He was inspired to write this sweet book called This Sweet Land. And I've been talking to him for a couple weeks. Finally, we were able to get this interview done, so I'm really excited about that. And we're going to discuss your book. I have a few images, but I want to first have you introduce yourself and tell everyone why you were inspired to write this children's novel.
Yeah, a pleasure to meet everyone. Thank you for having me on, Scarlett. And I got to say the hype up music before getting on here really fired me up. So kudos to you and the team for choosing some good hype up music. But so I wrote the book for a couple of reasons. So as you mentioned, I'm 27. I don't have a family yet. One day I'll have a big family. But right now I have 2 nephews and a niece under 5 years old. And I continue seeing this troubling content in public schools and libraries. Kudos to Moms for Liberty on being really a leader and bringing this content to the forefront. And it kind of dovetails into this really troubling statistic that I saw, where in 1998, 70% of Americans held that patriotism was a very important value. Today, it's just 38%. And so a country that doesn't love itself can't survive. And I wholeheartedly believe that America is worth loving, preserving, and defending. So you could either be upset about something and do nothing about it, or try to make a change. And so that's really what brought me to write This Sweet Land. And
you were telling me, so you were raised in New York, so you're a New Yorker, and you were in Chicago, and now you're in LA.
Mm-hmm.
And so hold on just one second. There's a little bit of a noise thing, and I can edit this. I was hearing a bit of an echo, so I just want to make sure that the settings are okay.
Was it coming when I was speaking?
No, when I'm speaking.
Okay.
Hello. Okay, better. All right. So that's fine. That's why I like to record, because then we can edit it.
There you go. No, it makes in action. Justify in action.
Get to do some things in action. So all right. So Jakob, you are a native New Yorker, and now you live in LA. So you've gone from like one very woke area to another even more woke area. I'm not so sure. So what's your story? Like how are you sane? How are you a conservative despite where you've grown up?
Yeah, Scarlett, I just follow the best politics in the country geographically. We were talking this before. I was in Boston for a little bit, in Chicago, so I'm just always in the best places for politics. But really, even though my parents aren't particularly conservative, they're very patriotic. And so that's something that I think is really important, and why, what has shaped my views today, because it's unfortunate that patriotism has become a political statement. To say that you love America, you're instantly labeled as a Republican. And I think that's a shame, because I think loving America should be the standard. So I think that bedrock of loving America has helped me really develop my views, because unfortunately, it wasn't always like this. There's one party that I think doesn't truly love America, and the data shows that. Gallup did a recent poll, and I believe it was less than 40% of Democrats were extremely or very proud to be American, and Republicans more than doubled that. And so I think having that foundation, I should say, has really helped me become who I am today and the views that I hold.
Yeah, it's so troubling, because you're right. It wasn't like that. It wasn't always like this. I'm old enough to remember when Democrats were just as patriotic as Republicans. You didn't really question that. There were just maybe some different policy views, maybe different views on foreign policy, on economic policy. But I came of age during the time of Bill Clinton, where when Bill Clinton signed the bills that reduced the welfare state. It's just kind of crazy that now there's such a big divide. But so what is your book about? I'm going to put up an image. What is your book about? And what really inspired you for this? Because you're 27 years old. There's a lot that you could be doing, but to decide to write a patriotic children's book and feel so passionately about that, what's your driving force?
Yeah, I mean, so yes, this is the cover. I can't take credit for any of the illustrations. Todd Stahl did a great job. My great grandfather was an artist. He was a painter, and that talent completely bypassed me. But I think it goes back to what I opened with, is that a country that doesn't love itself can't survive. And so the best way to ensure that the next generation loves America is to educate them and to ensure that they have good reading materials. I've been speaking with Moms for Liberty chapter leaders across the country, and one thing that I consistently keep hearing is that even in the reddest of areas of America, it's hard to remove this from the bad content from schools and libraries. So ultimately, the best way to combat that bad content is to drown it out with good content. And that's really where I want the book to play a role, is that it's another tool that parents and educators can use to ensure that the next generation is growing up being proud of their American heritage.
So you can see some of the illustrations that I have up, and this is really sweet. So describe this for me.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, so funnily enough, people say, oh, this illustration kind of looks like you. The little boy's name is Ben. I shared a picture of me and my dad with Todd, the illustrator. So that's why there is a resemblance. But I remember very early on loving to go to ball games with my dad. And my parents were always very much, you stand for the national anthem, you put your right hand over your heart, and you sing. And there should be no shame in loving America. And this is just a scene that I had multiple times throughout my childhood. Probably was going to be at Yankee Stadium or Citi Field, given it was in New York. But yeah, that's really where that image comes from.
So I'm reading from your flyer about your book, and it says, "This sweet land follows young Ben as he discovers what makes United States special. Its roots, the flag, the meaning of bravery. It's a colorful, patriotic story that inspires children to feel proud of their heritage and want to carry America's values into the future." That's so sweet. I love that.
Thank you.
I'm definitely going to get this book for my kids. This is really sweet. And I just found it so interesting because you're 27 years old and such strong values, and you're committing your time to write something that's for the betterment of young children. When you see, I'm sure you've seen some of the content that is available to kids in public schools. How does that make you feel? The content's not only just anti-patriotic, some of it's very sexual. It introduces concepts that are way age inappropriate. I mean, like the latest book, Jakob has the new dress. I mean, how does that make you feel when you know that kids are being presented with this terrible content?
It's disturbing to me. I think it's very upsetting. And ultimately, that's why I've had a recent realization that while I like living in Los Angeles, maybe right now, I don't think it's a place I'd ever want to raise a family, because unfortunately, so much of this content is geography dependent. Even though we've seen that so much of it is in red areas, it's shown me that I want to be around people who are like-minded. I want to be around parents that see this and be like, no, not for my kids. I want, to be in an area where there's a strong Moms for Liberty chapter, making sure that content like this never gets into schools. And if it's there, it's removed. So I would say it's very upsetting. It's just because to me, there's no better place to be in the history of the world than the United States. And I find it very upsetting that there's content out there that's making children feel as though this place is an awful place to be, or it's promoting them not to feel comfortable in the body that they have when they should be proud of the body that they have. So it's alarming. And that's why, unfortunately, we hear that it's hard to remove this content, and I'm hoping the book can just be another tool to drown out the bad content and could be presented and be like, you know what, this is a book that's uplifting, it's positive. We were talking about that. You're like, we want to do something positive and fun and light. This should be loving America and celebrating 4th of July and talking with your grandparents. These are all things in the book. Celebrating veterans. Veterans Day was yesterday. You know, these are things that should be make people happy. And so that's another part of the book. It should bring a smile. It should be proud of being American.
Yes, books for young children should be happy. They should bring a smile. They should, you know, you can have a nice patriotic book. And you were at the Moms for Liberty Joyful Warrior Summit.
Indeed.
So what was that your first Moms for Liberty Summit?
Yes, it was my first Moms for Liberty Summit. I'll give you a little background. As mentioned, I've been doing virtual events with a number of Moms for Liberty chapters and chapter leaders. I'm going to shout out two in particular who are like, you have to go to Summit. I was doing an event with North Carolina chapter leaders, Kelly Harris and Amy Kaplan. We were having a great conversation, and they were like, you have to go to Summit. Like, this is who you want to be around. Your book's people will love it. And so I told them there, and virtually that I give them credit for really pushing me to go, because at first I'm like, am I gonna go? And then it turned into such an incredible weekend. I'm so happy I went. But one thing that I found really interesting is the fact, at first I was like, joyful warrior, like that's kind of counterintuitive, because you would think a warrior is someone who's going to be, like I'm fighting, I'm angry, I'm going to do what I need to do. And while we can channel that energy, you really did feel the joy in the room, where you are supposed to feel uplifted about who you are, what you believe, and the country that you're from. And so, yes, it was. But to answer the long-winded way, I just want to say it was an incredible event, just to give that kudos to where credit to where it's due. It was my first summit, and I don't plan on being my last. So I'm excited for next year as well.
Oh yeah, it'll be great. And so you in California, have you spoken to any Moms for Liberty chapters there?
Yes. So I will give a shout out to another person who deserves a lot of credit, who really kicked this all off, Madison Miner of Orange County. When I moved out here, I went to coffee with her. She loved the book, and she was the one who really helped kickstart my exposure to Moms for Liberty. So none of this would have happened without Madison. So I give her a lot of credit, and her organization, Protect Our Kids, is an amazing one. I attended their inaugural Conservative Educator Summit, and it was amazing to see an inaugural event with the attendance and energy that it had. So excited to see where that goes further. But Madison also 100% deserves a shout out here.
Have you spoken with Sonia Shaw, who's running for State Superintendent of California?
She was at the event. She spoke. I haven't spoken to her personally, but she was a featured speaker at that educator conference.
Well, I'll have to connect you, because she's a friend of mine. And I know that she would love to talk to you. And this is exactly the kind of content that she would like more California's children to be exposed to, rather than the radical content that they are. She's a current Chino Valley School Board member, and she's a tough cookie, but she's so sweet. And
she is a joyful warrior. Emphasis on the warrior. That when she was at this event, you can tell she's not taking any crap. She's here to play, and she's going to fight for what she believes is right.
Yes, and she is the first state candidate that Moms for Liberty has endorsed. So we are endorsing her as State Superintendent of California. We normally just endorse in school board races, but so she is our first statewide candidate, because we want to support her effort. And she's just so passionate, and she's up against a lot in California. So
indeed, to say the least.
Yeah, to say the least. So for those who are watching Moms for Liberty chapter chairs, Jakob will meet with your group virtually and possibly even come in person. So if there's other chapters in California, or if you want to reach him, what should folks do? What should moms that would like to talk to you and work with you do? Where can they contact you?
Yeah, I would say you can contact me. I have 2 social media platforms. I have X, and the X handle is Jakob, and I spell my name with a K. So if it
like my son.
Yes, we were discussing that. So it sounds like Scott and my parents are both Bob Dylan fans,
yeah,
and Yeah, so my parents were inspired by Jakob Dylan, Bob Dylan's son, and that's where I have the K. So it'd be Jakob L. Feinstein on X, and then Jakob Feinstein on Instagram. If anyone is interested, please follow, shoot me a DM. Would love to continue engaging with Moms for Liberty chapters.
All right, I am looking right now. I'm making sure that I'm getting this right because I'm going to put this out there because I want people to follow you, Jakob L. Feinstein. So just tell me. I'm going to put this up, and if it's spelled wrong, tell me. Is that right?
That looks good. Yeah, just the F is capitalized and the J isn't. If you just for aesthetic purposes,
Okay, yeah.
if you wanted to change that,
Because it should be all on, like, it doesn't really. Yeah, let's see. There. Let's do that.
Yeah, and I would just capitalize the L in between, and then we should
Okay.
be, everything else looks good.
Yes, so capitalize that. I'll fix that. But and then where else can they follow you?
On Instagram, and that's just Jakob Feinstein. There's no L there.
Okay, so on those, and then they can DM you and talk about, doing a virtual event where you talk about your book. And then, so how is it going? Are you on Amazon?
I am on Amazon. I could send you a QR code that you can flash on the screen.
Yeah, send it to me. I'm going to put it
it's hyper designed. It looks really cool. So I'll send that to you right after this, and you could flash that on the screen as well.
Yeah, send it to me, and then I will put that. I can also put that out. I'll put that in social media promotions as well.
Awesome. That's
Nothing
great.
like a good QR code so that folks can get.
Agree. It makes life a lot easier.
I know palm cards, so much easier just to have like a palm card or something, QR code, they can pull it up. But yeah, so here's the book. Are you going to be writing any more books?
So I would like to. I have the shell of another one, but something I've learned, I'm a big reader. I love reading biographies, and I was a history major at school. And one thing that successful authors and people in general have done is focus on one thing at a time. So right now, I really want to focus on This Sweet Land and making sure it can get the breadth that it deserves. And from there, we will work on other books.
Well, the America 250 celebration is going to be huge. And I know we at Moms for Liberty, we are going to be doing a lot of work. So hopefully we can collaborate, because this is just the kind of material that we want to amplify and make sure that more American children have access to, especially as we celebrate the 250th birthday of our country. And President Trump is really, they're going all out, and we're part of a special committee. So the timing could not be more perfect for material like this. So I'm rooting for you, and I know that we at Moms for Liberty love what you're doing, and we want to support what you're doing, especially you're a young guy, and it's rare to see a 27-year-old that's this committed to country and to providing such wholesome, good materials for kids.
Thank you, Scott. I genuinely appreciate that, and I would love to collaborate however I can. I was in DC 2 weekends ago for a wedding, and I was walking with someone along the monument. So I said, I need to be here on July 4th of next year. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a once in a lifetime opportunity and event. So very excited to see what comes of that.
Oh, it will. It's going to be amazing. They're already, have you seen all the construction around DC? They are working, they're like all the museums are kind of getting refurbished, and the Supreme Court should be done pretty soon. So everywhere I go, I'm there a lot more. You see some kind of construction, and they're like, we're getting ready for the 250. So it's going to be epic. It really is. But thank you for coming on, Jakob. And I'm so happy to promote this book, This Sweet Land, and it's available on Amazon. We are going to provide the QR code in the comments. We're going to provide it when I'm airing and when I'm putting it on social media. And I hope that everyone gets a copy, even if you don't have young kids right now. Like, buy a copy and donate it to your school library, donate it to your local library. Buy 10 copies and donate it, because frankly, that's the best thing that we could do. I think providing alternative content is the joyful warrior way. You know, they often say, oh, you want to ban books, and we don't want to ban books. We just want things to be age appropriate. And a great way to counter this whole like lie that they spread about us is to provide alternative material that there's no one, Democrat, Republican, you can't look at this book and think, oh, I don't want my kids to see this image. You know, of course, they're not going, you'd have to be like AOC level of crazy.
I agree. No, there is nothing political or controversial about this book. It's purely about growing up to love America. That's it. That's really it. And the one other thing that I would love to note is that 5% of the profits go to a veteran advocacy nonprofit that I've been volunteering with since freshman year of college, called Points for Patriots. And so our mission is really just a quick, aside, because I think it's an incredible organization. Our mission is to bridge the military-civilian divide, since so many civilians don't know veterans at all, and they sometimes have a really kind of warped conception of veterans, and veterans sometimes struggle with coming back into civilian life. And what I think is special, what we do is that we flip the script. The veterans become the mentors, and we connect them with high school students, and then they help each other, I should say, organize sporting events to raise money for the charity. And so not only are we bridging that military civilian divide where high school students are becoming friends with a veteran, but we're also providing that sense of social entrepreneurship and ownership and execution, which is crucial for anyone, but especially a high schooler getting rising into the world, and a veteran who's just entering it again. So wanted to highlight that, because I'm really happy that not only is the book hopefully can help inspire the next generation to love America, but also directly helping veterans transition back to civilian life.
That's amazing. Oh, I'm so proud of you for doing that. My father is a veteran. He served in 3 tours, 2 in Iraq, 1 in Afghanistan after 9/11, and he's a Marine, and and my brother's a Marine, my grandfather, like all the way back. So I really appreciate what you're doing, and that's tremendous for veterans and for the students, the kids that get to work with them, and both equally benefit. So that's amazing. Sure. That's right, 5%. So can't go wrong here. So I think everyone pick up a copy of this book, buy like 10, and this great gift, great Christmas gift, and a great, lots of times in schools, they'll ask for donations for that we provide for other children. So I'll be sure and buy this book, donate it to the school, and donate it to charities. There's like the Toys for Tots, the Marines too. There's a lot of different charities where we donate toys and books. This should be one of them. So thank you, Jakob. Well, I'm going to go make dinner. And I'm going to order a copy of this book. And it was
I'm also going to send you one as well. So just it'll be on its way.
Okay, great. Well, I want to buy some books too, because I want to support what you're doing. So
thank you
so much. And thank you for coming on. Thank you for your patience. And I hope that we talk very soon.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Have a great rest of the night, Scarlett.
Thank you. You too. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unleashed with me, Scarlett Johnson, presented by Moms for Liberty. And I am thrilled to have two very special guests with deep Wisconsin roots. And that's how we say Wisconsin around here. Both are Gen Z conservatives who give me a lot of hope for the future. Evita Duffy-Alfonso and her husband is now a congressional candidate, Michael Alfonso. Evita is a writer, a commentator, and hosts the daily podcast, The Bongino Report, Early Edition. And Michael is a producer, I just learned. He's a Vilas County native who has recently announced his run for Congress in Wisconsin's 7th district. I think it's amazing that two young people, Gen Z conservatives, are just doing so much already. It, like I said, it gives me hope, and that's why I wanted to have them on. I want to talk about their story, what's at stake in Wisconsin, and issues that matter most to parents and families and voters. So thanks, guys, for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Evita, quick little bios, like you're the oldest of 9 children. And your mom is Rachel Campos Duffy, who I love. She's the co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend. You're in her studio right now. She is a strong female conservative voice in America. We all appreciate her at Moms for Liberty. We love her. And your dad's Sean Duffy. He's a former congressman and now is the U.S. Secretary of Transportation in the Trump administration. And he's a favorite in Wisconsin as well. Michael, you are a native of Vilas County. You currently are in Wausau, Wisconsin. You worked your way through UW-Madison doing construction work and road paving. Like you are the embodiment of the American dream, pulling yourself up, like just that individual spirit. You are the grandson of Cuban refugees, and now you are a candidate for Congress in Wisconsin's 7th district, which is amazing. So let's start from the beginning. How did you two meet?
Well, we actually met in Wausau in middle school. So both of our families moved to Wausau around the same time, and that's when we met each other.
Yeah, so we went to high school together, middle school together, but we didn't start dating until after high school graduation. And then we dated all through college and got married in the summer of 2022, right after we graduated. I graduated college, and President Trump was actually at our wedding, which was amazing. So it was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's amazing. So where did you guys go to college? I know we said Madison for you, Michael.
So I went to the University of Chicago, and so he would come on the weekends and visit and take me to dinner or whatever. And so that's how we were able to keep dating, because it was how long of a drive was that, Michael? Like a couple hours?
It was only about 2 hours, but you could get caught in traffic, so it'd get 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
But then, so I mean, your viewers know about this because everybody's a mom here. We got shut down during COVID, and so for half of our college careers, Michael and I were back home in Wausau with our families, and so that made it easier on our dating life. But also, it was really hard education wise because we were defrauded out of our tuition dollars with remote learning.
Oh yes, I had my son and daughter who were in college, doing learning at the house. And my son started off medical school virtual. Like his first year of medical school was completely virtual, which I just couldn't even understand. And but his second year, when they all finally met each other, they were still required to wear masks. It wasn't until his junior year that he's looking around. He's like, "Oh, that's what you look like." It's tough. It's really tough. It was hard on kids, on college kids. I know we talked a lot about what's happening to elementary school kids, middle school, high school, but even in college, I couldn't attend my son's graduation in person. We had to wait outside and like watch it from a screen or watch it from our phone. It was horrible. And
I had a friend who he is hard of hearing, and he relies heavily on reading lips. And so when he came back into the classroom and had to have a mask on, he could not understand what his classmates and the professor were saying. It was horrible. I almost got expelled because I refused to get the vaccine, and then the booster mandate. We had a vaccine mandate and a booster mandate. They almost expelled me. A friend of mine who went to Union College in New York was actually expelled for refusing to take her.
Wow.
So
We forget how bad it was. We forget how bad it was. My daughter ended up transferring to Florida to go to nursing school because she was going to be required to get the vaccine. And Florida was, so we moved we had to move her to Florida just so that she would avoid, because I want grandchildren.
yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to risk it.
Although Michael has a funny story from UW Madison and the quarantine dorm. I don't know if you want to tell that, Michael.
Oh, yeah. So, COVID was a crazy time, but there was kind of these restrictions that they put in place for kids that they thought were going to make them safer. So when you got COVID, especially if you were a freshman in the dorms, they would send you like sort of off campus to like one of the far away dorms. And they didn't have any, hall monitors or RAs because they didn't want anyone to get sick. So it ended up being an absolute party dorm. People were trying to get COVID to go to the dorms. And I remember coming home.
There was no supervision. It was just like a free for all in there.
I was coming home from the library at like 12 o'clock at night, and you could see the strobe lights and hear the music from the dorm as I was walking home. It was ridiculous.
That's one I haven't heard. My son was in Madison, and I know they tried to do like the passport thing. Like he ended up having to get tested every 24 hours because the only way you could get into the classroom was through your phone, and they had to scan negative. And it was then they tried to do, didn't they try and do like a tattletale site, like
Yes.
if you see someone say something, and it turned out that people were taking pictures.
Yeah, it was a nightmare. Some of us may or may not have had really good friends who would prop a side door open for us if the passport wasn't working so we could get into class. But yeah, it was a nightmare.
So at my school, we had a commie snitch list too, where they basically said, in order to attend class, you have to sign a document where you promise to turn in your professors and your classmates if you see them violating any university COVID rules or city of Chicago COVID rules. It was deeply I don't know, collectivist and disturbing. And it not only that in the document that had you sign to attend class, they said you have to agree that COVID poses a serious public health threat. Well, I didn't think it did, and so I didn't want to sign the document, and so they wouldn't let me go to class. And it was a disaster. They made life really difficult for any student who didn't want to comply with an experimental vaccine mandate, the ridiculous mask mandates. It was almost an exercise in mental submission just as much as it was physical submission.
It was. I love that you called it a commie snitch list, because that's
what it was.
That's what it was. It was, snitch and tell. And I think that we can never forget what happened when they had this absolute power. When they had that power, the way that they tried to crush dissent, the authoritarian nature that came out, and the way that they just refused to care about children. And I have one of my daughters is on the autism spectrum with special needs, and they threw her under the bus. Like you said, all of her service ended, nothing in person for almost 2 years. And even virtually, the person on the other end was wearing a mask. Virtually. I am like, what? I'm done with this. I'm not participating in this insanity. Why would you be wearing a mask in a room that you are alone in as you are talking to my daughter who needs to see your lips moving? Because this was speech therapy. It didn't.
Yeah. It was crazy. It was completely unconstitutional. Every single rule they put in place. And that's why, for the first time, young people were really smacked in the face with, oh yeah, it turns out no matter what the Constitution says, if you don't challenge these people, if you don't fight them, they're going to just do whatever they want. And I think you see a big movement of anyone that went through the nightmares of COVID, a massive shift to the right.
So Michael, this must have had a very serious effect on you, that you're very young, you're living in this sort of, in Madison, which we call like the Socialist Republic of Madison. It's like I mean, crazy town in Wisconsin. Wisconsin, you look at a map after an election, it's just red, red, red with these little blue spots, but it's
Yep.
Milwaukee. Maybe there's a few other areas, but there's a concentration in Madison because it's our big university. It's a well-known university. I have kids that have gone there, and the leadership there is far, far left. So you went to school there, you saw something, then lived through COVID. Did you know that you would eventually want to run for office?
No, I've never thought of myself as someone who would be a politician. Frankly, I was so disinterested with politics until politics became interested in me. And it's come to a point where I can't live my normal life the way I wish I could. And a big part of me running is to make sure that when I start having kids, they don't go through the same disasters that I had to. I hope my kids never even have to look at politics, that it becomes so simple for them.
Do you feel like this is almost service, this is duty, that this is something that you have to do, not necessarily what you want to do, but what you have to do because young people have to get involved, they have to participate, and they have to serve in order to save our state and our country?
Yeah, it really is service. And I would say it's not just me who feels this way. I was actually at a Turning Point event. They were starting a new chapter in Wausau where Evita and I where we met. And it was amazing. There's so many young people, they want to get active and they're not sure how. And Turning Point is showing them, here, you can knock doors. It might be scary, just knock 5 doors. It makes a huge difference. But I would say you're seeing a lot of young people who have just made the conscious decision to be unapologetically conservative. Even if they don't go further than that, they're not curbing their beliefs. They're not going to hide in the back offices. They tell you what they think, and it's really encouraging.
Now, Evita, you're his wife. It is a big deal to have a spouse running for office, but your dad did it as well. So this is something that you grew up with parents who serve. What was it like to be as a kid to grow up with parents that were well known, your dad, a congressman, and now that you're the wife of a candidate?
So my dad was in office from 2010 for another like decade, and he was wonderful, and he's actually was the member of Congress in the district that Michael is running in now. It's where both of us are from. It's where I was born and I was raised, and I loved being involved in politics at a young age. Just to be honest, like I thought it was so fun. I would rollerblade down parade routes. I'd go with my dad to dairy breakfasts and Lincoln Day dinners and Reagan Day dinners. I thought it was so fun. And in rural Wisconsin, that I'm not like a Virginia member of Congress's daughter, so I don't get to go to all the fun DC events. I'm one of 9 kids, so we didn't have the money to constantly send us over to be part of that DC world. So I didn't even really know what that was about. I just loved the travel and the experience that gave me. And so I don't know, I'm so excited that Michael is running now. I think it's awesome. And I'll just say this, if you look at who are the young members of Congress right now, we're not being represented very well as young people. We have Maxwell Frost. He's horrible. He's probably one of the worst members in Congress at the current moment. So I think Michael would actually represent the growing number of young people, and especially young men, who are desiring a return to traditionalism. So I know what this job is about. I know how much hard work it takes. This is a massive district. It's the biggest district in the state of Wisconsin. It's one of the biggest in the country. And so I'm ready to support him in any way I can, be there, driving, going places, doing things to make it happen. I'm more than excited about it, and I know what it takes.
Yeah, Evita's 100% right. Because I have worked many campaigns across Wisconsin, and I was a surrogate for Trump. When you are campaigning across Wisconsin, it is not the DC jet set life. It is going, but it's wonderful. I fell in love with Wisconsin going through it, and the area that you'll represent is so beautiful, and it is for Moms for Liberty. Our strongest chapters are developing there, our fastest growing. We are growing their leaps and bounds as more parents are becoming aware of what's happening in their schools. And what happens in Madison isn't staying in Madison. It's trickling into even more rural and suburban areas. But you go to state fairs, you go to farms, you're doing things in a community, you're surrounded by real people. Like, this is the fanciest event you're going to have is going to be with some bratwurst, which is amazing and I love it. And it's going to be all Wisconsin, and it's different. And growing up that way and loving it, that's amazing. And I'm the oldest of my family, and my dad was always into politics. He was a Marine. And so I just love politics too. Some of us are weird that way. We just
Scarlett, can I just say to your audience, because so that they know, the first time that we actually met was I was working on an article for the Federalist about what was happening in Stevens Point and in their school district. There was a lot of corruption. They were doing things and injecting woke ideology, and the parents weren't aware of it. And you were so knowledgeable on the subject. So as I was reporting on it, you were an amazing source. I was like, this woman, she's like a dictionary. She's like Google. Like, I talked to her and she has all the facts and the numbers memorized, and great context that you gave me. So it was a good article. And I think what was so amazing about it was, you're right, Scarlett, like, so many people in this area. Stevens Point used to be part of our district. Now it's not, but it's still very close to our district. People are not jiving with the woke ideology, with the critical race theory, with the gender theory, going behind parents' backs and changing a child, brainwashing them into not believing that they are the sex that they were born with. And so this is a place where, because the families are traditional, because the people have those values, especially the parents, there is so much room for big change to become leaders and examples in the country, and also to be represented by a member of Congress who stands with them fully. This is a district that does not need a squishy member of Congress, because it is a diehard red district, and they're ready to fight.
Yes, it's a district that Tom Tiffany holds, and he's running for governor right now, and he's the leading candidate for governor. And so there needs to be a strong Republican in place, one that will vote like Tom did, to support women and girls and protect women and girls sports. This is legislation that we absolutely must get across and this has to happen in Congress. We need this to happen. We need this to pass. We need protections of Title IX and the definition of sex, male, female, not the all-inclusive gender identity, which basically eviscerates Title IX and denies women their opportunities in education and in sports. So, Michael, I know I can guess that you are supportive of of Team Sanity.
I'm completely supportive of Team Sanity, but something I would throw in there that I think is really important for anyone seeking office right now, we need Christian leaders who not just understand that it's crazy to have a man in women's sports. No, we need to understand where our beliefs come from. And if you aren't deeply rooted in your faith, you will get pulled by the DC madness. You will get talked into all sorts of crazy compromises. We need people who understand why we believe what we believe.
That is 100% true. And you said your grandparents are refugees from Cuba. So you must have heard some pretty terrible stories of what it was like for them to live in a country that denied all Western values and Christian values.
Yeah, it was horrible. Cuba went from one of the greatest places to be in South America, Central America, to practically within, a decade being the worst place you could possibly be. And my grandparents were lucky enough to see the writing on the wall and to leave. But many people were trapped there. And I actually have extended family who I've never met who are over there. And I think when you see people like Zorhan Mamdani preaching free rent and free healthcare, that it can sound great, especially to young people who are struggling so much. But that's why we need leaders who say, no, this isn't you think you're just going to get free rent, free healthcare, cheaper groceries. That's not what happens. What happens is equitable suffering for everyone.
And his message seemed like that's all everyone's been talking about. This message resonated with a lot of Gen Z in New York. And so providing that alternative message is so important. I mean, Evita, what I know, because you're on a show daily, Don Bongino. How important is it for us to have a message for kids your age? I have kids your age.
Yeah, so I would say part of why Zoran Mamdani won isn't that he's a communist necessarily. It's that he's a populist. Zoran Mamdani was actually talking about how do we lower the price of rent? How do we lower the price of groceries? How do we make life in New York City more affordable? And that's a winning message. And it's a winning message, but it actually, if you're Zoran Mamdani, you're not going to get winning results. This, again, is what Michael said, it brings equitable suffering to everyone. We can message the same way Zoran Mamdani is on the right and actually deliver for people. That is what MAGA is all about. It's about lowering the cost of living. It's about making life better for regular working class Americans. It's about increasing those deportation numbers to increase the value of labor in this country. It's energy independence in this country. It's tax breaks for married couples with children. These are policies that we could implement on the right, that we could champion on the right, and we have been, but I think more of us need to do it, that actually speaks to populism, speaks to the issues affecting young people. Michael has been talking about really incessantly on the campaign trail, the ability for young people to own a home. How do we make that happen? Right now, in the 1970s, a home cost 2 to 3 times the annual income. Now it's nearly 10 times the annual income. It's gotten out of control. And so we need to be talking about things that people actually care about, especially young people. Zoran's doing it. The only problem is he's not going to actually fix the issues.
You're exactly right. There is the affordability crisis. That is real. And as conservatives, we have to understand that. I know Ben Shapiro would say facts don't care about your feelings, but sometimes feelings don't care about facts. And with the numbers that you mentioned, we need someone to talk to young people about what's happening in a way that they can understand. And the messenger has to be someone that they can relate to and feel like, okay, this person gets it. This person understands what I'm going through, and have those solutions. There are a lot of solutions out there that people don't know about because they're not in our echo chamber. And it's hard for us as in media. It's hard to get that message out because there is a concentrated effort to keep the normal American people knowing what's going on. Like what you said with Stephen's point. It should have been mainstream news. It should have been the cover of the Milwaukee Journal that Gigi Stahl is indoctrinating teachers, talking about furries in classrooms. Like that.
Litter boxes in the bathrooms.
Litter boxes in the bathrooms. I know everyone, the thing that's never happening, where teachers are asking, are there going to be litter boxes? In a professional development, that should have been front news, but it's not. It's not. Milwaukee Journal will just not talk about that. So we need people that will talk about it, and young people that are just legitimate. And so I appreciate that you are talking about these issues and working with groups like Turning Point, where that's the message that they are just trying to get to these young voters, these college age voters. We have a different message, a message of hope, not one of fear, and not one where the government is going to solve all of your problems, because it can't. And in the attempt to do so, it's going to just destroy everything.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, that is really the key. It's small government. And the socialists like AOC or Zorhan, they get the easy, cheap, quick fix where they just add price controls. That's not what it is. It's actually a really long process. Part of the issue with Wisconsin particularly is the permitting process. You have to go through a local permit. You have to go through a state permit. You have to go through a federal permit. All different paperwork, all submitted to different agencies. It's really the government that is causing the lag in business. It's not government that's going to help it somehow.
Yep. Yeah. And the government getting involved in lending is not a great idea. It's unleashing private enterprise. It's free market solutions. That's where we're going to find the answers.
Just look at what the government gets involved in lending in the biggest portion. Students. student loans? What has happened to tuition prices over the last 30 years? They've tripled, quadrupled. I don't even know, but it's ridiculous. Everything the government touches gets more expensive. And when they stay out of it, look at your cell phone plan, it goes down.
Yeah, in the 80s, tuition was $2,300 in today's money, and now it's actually averages around $10,000 a semester. So tuition is out of control, and it's saddling our young people in debt. And by the way, a lot of their degrees are useless, so they're not able to find jobs. 60% of young people who graduated last year are still looking for their first job. This is a problem, and one that can be, again, truly addressed by the right, and the Democrats are talking about it and putting out some really terrible solutions.
Yeah, and so as you guys are closer to graduating college than I definitely am, you really know what it's like. But I have kids, and we talk about this, like the amount of debt and where they're going to go to college and what degree they're going to get. Because if you want a degree in education, you don't need to go to a private school and amass $250,000 of debt that will just continue. The interest will just keep growing and growing. It's a big issue that we have to deal with. There's no easy solution, and the government made the mess. They're not going to clean it up. Right now, I'll talk about what's happening in Mequon, Wisconsin. I'm sure you guys have heard that we have South American gangs roaming through my area of Wisconsin, which I moved to because it's so safe. This is an area where you didn't even have to lock your car door. But there have been rampant burglaries, and they're happening in the middle of the day. Cars getting stolen out of the garage in the middle of the day because people leave their garage open, and it's happening so fast even while they're in the house, or run to the grocery store, come back, and you've been burglarized, stealing watches, high-end electronics, purses, cash, in and out. And it got so bad that the Mequon police put out a public statement. It made the news. It's now gone viral, warning Mequon, Wisconsin residents, hey, be careful because there's these bands of illegal aliens running through your community. All weekend, our community's been in an uproar. We just installed 2 more cameras. My husband's worried. He keeps texting me, did you lock everything? Are you okay? Make sure that the dog, luckily we have a dog that's running around, the barks a lot. That's hard to believe that this is happening in Wisconsin, in suburban communities, in rural communities. It shouldn't be happening anywhere, in Milwaukee or anywhere, but this is what happened. This is still the effects of illegal immigration and our governor and Democrats in Wisconsin refusing to work with the Trump administration and ICE.
Yeah, this is what happens when the madness from the left, from Marxism, reaches its peak. We have roaming gangs of illegal migrants stealing things from people's homes. And you have a group of people in Wisconsin who would lose their mind if ICE came in and had a presence in the area. They always side with the side of victims. That's all they care about. They don't use their brain. And really, that's the best part about being a young person. We're not prescribing some radical new ideology. No, we're prescribing common sense. When you have a roaming gang of illegals, arrest them at whatever means necessary. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, the Trump administration, they secured our border, which was necessary, and we need that, but we also need deportations. You have millions of people who are still here, let in under the Biden admin, and we have no idea who they are. It's a massive crisis, and some of them, of course, are stealing from homes in Mequon, so they need to go. And there's this narrative that the left has kind of been successfully pulling, that this is inhumane, it's wrong, it's evil. What's inhumane is keeping people in this country, first of all, who are criminals, and second of all, who are devaluing labor and taking opportunities away from regular Americans. We have lots and lots of people who are ready to work, many talented people who are here and ready to work. And so this is a crisis of legal and illegal immigration, and we won't have a country in a few years if we don't address both.
So I have friends who live in Chicago, and they've told me, and I've talked to some people off the record, and the belief is that the Trump administration's success in Chicago has led to what's happening here in Mequon, that they've moved because ICE has been, the presence there has been very helpful for Chicago in reducing crime, but these crime rings have now moved to Wisconsin and other states because they've been driven out of Chicago. So glad for the success there. Welcome ICE to come here and to continue that. Like, I think the presence deters, like, it, you know, you don't feel as confident to do these things when you know that, okay, there's an ICE presence and I will be deported. And so a lot of the crime will then move to another area. So I think this approach by the Trump administration has been successful. And now in Wisconsin, hopefully we will see an increased presence of ICE to deal with this situation.
Well, I would love to see that. I would have to say I doubt it, because this is the problem with having left-wing governors. If you have a governor that fights tooth and nail against the president, it becomes very difficult for him to bring in ICE and, federal law enforcement, which is exactly what they're for, to aid local authorities. And I hope we see a massive increase in ICE presence, but I doubt it with Governor Evers. I mean, he's too busy covering up for pedophiles in the school districts to care about people who are getting their cars stolen in Mequon.
Why don't you talk more about that, Michael? Because it is a huge story in Wisconsin regarding what we call the Department of Instruction. That's our state Department of Education, run by Jill Underly, and former DPI, Department of Instruction, was Governor Tony Evers, a Democrat. So why don't you tell everyone this story? It's absolutely shocking.
Yeah, I mean, the DPI and Jill Underly have basically been brushing under the rug multiple accusations of grooming and child abuse in the school district. While this is happening, the school district has fallen behind Mississippi for education. This is what happens when you elect left-wing radicals. They care more about victims, so the pedophile apparently, than they care about kids who are just trying to learn how to read.
Yeah, and that's not an exaggeration. A lot of leftists like to use minor attracted persons to refer to pedophiles. They truly do sympathize with pedophiles, and they want all of us to as well.
Yeah, Governor Evers was just recently asked by Spectrum News if he would support the GOP legislation that would define the term groomer as it applies in K through 12 education, so that basically we can take care of these issues. And he said he's worried that kind of legislation might make it hard for a teacher to hug a child or student. I mean, this isn't rocket science. We're trying to protect kids from predators instead of letting them quietly resign and covering it up and shoving it under the rug, that you actually deal with and prosecute these people. I just think, why?
Again, it's common sense. You would think for anyone with two brain cells to rub together, they would know what the solution is. But apparently with the people we have in office, they can't figure it out. But I will say that some of the Republicans that put that legislation forward, his name's Jesse James. He's actually in my district. He's a rock star. He actually cares about kids. And this is the battle. It's no longer right versus left. It's not a political fight. It is a spiritual battle. Are you on the side of grooming children or are you not?
Yes, Jesse James and Representative Amanda Nedweski, great. They've done a great job, a tremendous job. I've watched all of the hearings that they've had, that Jill Underly didn't even bother to show up to the first one. And now
she was busy getting an award, right?
Yeah, an award when Wisconsin is dead last in educating children of color, Black children, the worst in the country. Their reading levels are 5%. That means only 5% of Black children in Wisconsin can read at grade level. And she's getting an award. It should be an award for the worst.
And DPI recently they changed their report card for school districts, if I'm right about that. And they've altered the way that they are ranking all of the schools in the state of Wisconsin. So ones that should be getting Fs are now, getting passing scores. And I think there's a DEI angle to this as well. So they're ranking schools who have Black and brown students who do somewhat better as higher than schools who are actually having their test scores successful irrespective of race. So it's not accurate scoring, and it is a disservice to the students. The safety and education of Wisconsin students is failing because of Democrats who are in charge of DPI and the school system in general.
Yep, you're 100% right. They have this whole complicated formula that has a DEI component. 25% of the scoring is dependent. They fudge the numbers. They have a different formula if you have a certain quota of kids of different ethnic identities. So, and you're doing no service to children in Milwaukee, children that are Black and brown, and being Black or brown, and I am brown, so it doesn't make you inherently disadvantaged. Your skin color has it's completely ridiculous to go along with this critical race theory that if I have brown skin, then, I'm a victim. And if I have white skin, then I am automatically a perpetrator. And both of you are of Hispanic background. So I know you feel me on this.
Yeah, and the quote that comes to mind of this situation is from Clarence Thomas. It's one of my favorites. Nothing is worse than the subtle racism of low expectations. When you expect less of someone, they will achieve less. You need to expect the same of every kid, regardless of race, gender, ethnicity, you name it. That's what matters. Kids they want goals to achieve. And if you set, you're Hispanic, so you don't need to read as good as the white kids. It's horrible. They're ruining children.
And do you think, because that's another angle. You're young, conservative, Michael. You also are of Hispanic descent. So the woke are like hair on fire, like you're supposed to be one of us. But you have this, the view, you look at the world not through the lens of race, not through the lens of privilege, but through the lens that you should be, like a Western views of America. And that makes you really different and unique. And it's a voice that I think is really necessary to combat this cultural Marxism.
Yeah, and that really is the battle we're fighting right now. It's cultural Marxism, and they're even bringing it to practical Marxism in some areas. One of the people running in the governor's race, her name is Francesca Hong, and if you look at the district she represents, she's an assemblyman. It is exactly the Madison district, like exactly where the university is, that's her. And this is where it's coming from. It can come from young people, but there's also a massive movement on the right. It's the Charlie Kirk movement to say, no, what we need Christian conservatism, and that will fix these problems. And it's not the easy solution, it's the hard one, but it's the only one that works.
Did Charlie's murder affect your decision to run?
Yeah. So Evita and I actually had a job in the Trump administration. I was going to work in the Treasury Department, and we were waiting for someone to get confirmed before I could start the job. And right as he got confirmed, Tom Tiffany decided he wasn't going to run. And frankly, I didn't know if I wanted to, uproot every bit of our plans and, run for Congress. But I felt called to do it. And then Charlie also got shot in the middle of it. And everyone always says, wherever I go, you're 25, you're pretty young to be running for Congress. And I always say, yeah, I am young, but we're the battle-tested generation. We were on college during COVID, BLM, and then, what many of us would consider almost a family member because he was on every TV, every phone. Charlie Kirk got assassinated live on X or television or wherever you watched it. And that was the moment where I think I decided, and Evita agreed with me, that it doesn't matter about age and experience. What matters is your character and your conviction. And we're going to bring that to America, and most importantly, Wisconsin.
Evita, I think you two have a lot of experience, even though you have a young age, just because of your background and what you've been exposed to. So you have some unique insight. You're older souls.
Yeah, well, I've been told that. I don't know if Michael's been told that I'm an old soul. No, but it's true. I feel like we've been fighting for a long time. I will say that the prequel to the BLM rioting that happened in our country was actually the protests against Scott Walker, the teacher unions, when they took over the state capitol. And they mean, it was disgusting what happened. There was trash all over the floor. They were screaming and yelling. Assemblymen and senators could not even get to their day-to-day jobs. When my dad was a member of Congress at this time, and he had to be police escorted to fundraisers or just events that he was doing with Governor Scott Walker because it was that bad. This is how leftists behave. They have no respect for our country, for our founding, for our heritage, and in fact, they hate it. And Michael and I understand that really deeply because we watched many of our classmates descend into the cultural Marxism madness. In Chicago, they burned the city down. In Madison, I mean, I was a student journalist. We were walking through the streets, and every building was boarded up. There was graffiti everywhere. Business owners were terrified. The students acted like lunatics, and there were no consequences. There were no consequences for the health experts who lied to us during COVID. Michael's right when he says that we're a battle-tested generation. We have seen a lot. And the jig is up, and I think that we're ready to fight. And I think Charlie Kirk was a tipping point for us and for a lot of other young people to say we're not going to just sit back and let our generation descend into madness, into the lies of Zohar Mamdani. We're actually going to represent something different.
I agree. I think that we have to pass the baton. We have to allow young people to start to, with their fresh set of eyes, look at the problems and come up with different perspectives. You guys are the future, and we should be encouraging and celebrating the fact that you're willing to make this huge sacrifice and run for office, because it is a real sacrifice. It can be a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work, and we're always trying to get Gen Z and younger people involved. And so when they are getting involved, I think we should be extremely supportive and open to their message, because it's the message of the future.
We appreciate that. I love all the support that we can get.
Yes. So in closing, and I know Michael will and Evita, I'll see you a lot in Wisconsin, which is awesome, because we are going to be getting very involved in the 2026 elections. Moms for Liberty, Wisconsin. We have a legislative day, February 3rd and 4th, and you all are invited for sure. I'll give you more information. We're inviting all the candidates. We invite the Democrats too. Sometimes they show up, and I would love for them to watch one of my presentations about what's happening in schools, because it would blow their mind. I think blow their mind. But they come in, and then they usually leave after 2 minutes, like, this isn't happening. It's like, yeah, well, I brought the receipts. These images are direct from what's happening in classrooms. But we would love for you guys to join us. And so there's an open invitation. But I'm thrilled that you are running. And in closing, I would like to know, as Wisconsin is watching closely, and now this is going out nationwide, what is your message that you want to give to the families in your district, the parents in your district, and across Wisconsin, across the country?
I would say, specifically for the people in Wisconsin, stay strong. We have a weak governor right now. It can seem like the world is falling apart. It's not. And I would say, remember that although we got our guy in 2024, we have a very, very important set of elections coming up in 2026. In April, we have the judge coming in. Her name is Maria Lazar, and we need to get her in because we can't do anything when we have judges legislating from the bench. And then we need to get Tom Tiffany in. I would even jokingly say, don't vote for me as long as you vote for Tom. That's what's most important for Wisconsin. And really just stay strong. It's going to get better.
And I think you vote all down ballot. Definitely vote for you too. But that April election, that's also school board elections. Those are the nonpartisan elections in Wisconsin. They're separate, but you're right. The election
Nonpartisan.
Nonpartisan. I know it's annoying. it's not nonpartisan, but yeah, Maria Lazar is running in that very important state Supreme Court race. And then your election is coming up. No, this would be November, and we'll see how primaries and all of that go out. But so Evita, how important is the 2026 election?
Well, it's essential. I mean, right now, President Trump has a lot of executive orders. We need to get members of Congress in to continue to actually implement these executive orders into law. Otherwise, whoever comes in next could tear down everything good that President Trump has done, and that includes protecting women's sports. So this is across the board, tons of issues. We need to maintain our majority in Congress, at least in the House. And the other thing that I will say just about Michael, I think it's really important that, we elect Republicans, we elect conservatives, but more importantly, that we elect people who are good people. And I can shamelessly, because I'm his wife, I can tell you that Michael is somebody who is worried about his soul, and everything that he says and does, he is thinking about what comes next. And that's the kind of person that you want representing you, who is really thinking about the next life, which is what really matters, and will act on it. That's how you have good legislatures, good people who are willing to do what's right in positions of power, and under a lot of pressure.
I think that's great, that we need to look at character and not just say, oh, what is your view on the policies? Because Michael, if you are conservative, everything you're saying, it rings true, So what else do you have to offer? And the fact that you are young, you are idealistic, and that you are a Christian, you are unabashed about that, and that you have a message that you're giving to other young men your age, which is similar to Charlie's, which is love God, get married, have kids, and devote yourself to a cause that's greater than yourself. Don't get lost in the material world. You have a higher calling. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. And that really is the defining thing in every decision. First, it's America first. And second, you always need to remember that there's something after this, and that it doesn't come down to the next election or even the current election. It comes down to what's right and what's wrong.
Yes, that's 100% right. Well, thank you guys for joining me. I'm so happy that you're running for office, Michael. I was so pleased to read about it on social media, and that's why I contacted right away. Because I just want to see conservative Gen Z serving in office and taking the lead and us passing the baton to the next generation. I think it's really important for the survival of our state and our country.
Yeah, well, that means a lot. Thank you so much for having me. And if anyone wants to look at the website, we have all of our issues all laid out and how we're going to address it. It's Alfonso for Wisconsin.
And I'll make sure I put all that up in comments and links, ways that they can contact you, your website, and everything that they need if they're interested and if they live in your district, especially, so that they can know what you're about and spread the word.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us. You are amazing, and I'm sure your viewers know this, but you are a champion for women, for children in our state, and we are also grateful to you.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so sweet. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining me for this episode, and I'm sure I'm going to have you on again, because there's going to be some crazy things happening in Wisconsin. We're going to be a battleground state. And so it's going to be fun.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Bye. What a great discussion with tremendous young people. And I wanted to take this opportunity to share my screen and go to Michael's website. So here, let's go right there. There we go. We'll add some volume. And there we go. So you can hear this. So here you can go to alfonsoforwisconsin.com. And
high-paying jobs so people can plant their roots, raise their families here, and build a future they're proud of. Because when young people can't get ahead, they start listening to the lies of socialism. I'm running for Congress to keep the American dream alive. I'll work with President Trump to reform government, keep us safe, and bring down the cost of energy, food, and housing. Some say Congress needs older people with more experience. But let's be honest, they're the ones who created this mess. We need leaders with strong values, fresh energy, and the courage to fight for America's future. I'm Michael Alfonso. I'm America first. And I will never let my home become the place my grandparents left behind. Together, we can save the American dream. For your family and mine.
Wow.
My grandparents fled communist Cuba with nothing but hope and a belief that America was worth the risk. My name is Michael Alfonso, and I thank God that I was raised in Wisconsin, not Cuba. I met my wife, Evita Duffy, in high school. Later, I paid my way through UW-Madison by pouring concrete and paving roads. But the American dream my grandparents fled Cuba for is not the one my generation is inheriting. Prices keep climbing, groceries, gas, housing, and for young people, buying a home feels impossible. Our district needs to bring in high-paying jobs so people can plant their roots, raise their families here, and build a future they're proud of. Because when young people can't get ahead, they start listening to the lies of socialism. I'm running for Congress to keep the American dream alive. I'll work with President Trump to reform government, keep us safe, and bring down the cost of energy, food, and housing. Some say Congress needs older people with more experience. But let's be honest, they're the ones who created this mess. We need leaders with strong values, fresh energy, and the courage to fight for America's future. I'm Michael Alfonso. I'm America first. And I will never let my home become the place my grandparents left behind. Together, we can save the American dream. For your family and mine.
I love that. Oh, that's so cool. And look at these great pictures here. Great. I give it an A. That's a great ad, opening ad, great pictures on here. So if you want to learn more about Michael Alfonso, you can go to this website, particularly if you are in his district. So I love that. I love that. I want Wisconsin to not be the place that I have to leave behind. That's exactly right. Like Reagan said, where do we go? If we lose freedom here in America, where do we go? There is nowhere else to go. This is it. This is the last stand for free enterprise, free markets, freedom, liberty, all of that. So we've got to fight, and it's so great to see young people that are willing to do so. Here's some images speaking at local events. And there with his father-in-law, Sean Duffy, who is currently working in the Trump administration. He's the Secretary of the Department of Transportation, and he is a former congressman of the same district that Michael is running. And here is Evita Duffy. And just listening to her, she's so sharp, young but sharp. I mean, she hosts the Bongino Report Early Edition. She's excellent. Her ratings are tremendous. And she's just very articulate. She was a writer, and as she described, that we had worked together on an article that she wrote for the Federalists. And it's great that she's great writing and that she was always focused on Wisconsin. She always tried to bring in some of the stories that we work on in Moms for Liberty. And there they are at the convention, the RNC convention, July 2024 in Wisconsin. I was there all the way over here because I was a Wisconsin delegate. And I remember when all the balloons fell, it was so great. And so, oh, and I wanted to put this picture here. Here he is, he's with Turning Point. Brett, who I've had on the show briefly when he was doing some door knocking in Arizona, he started off as a state leader in Turning Point. He is now already moving up to be a national leader. And then here are some of our other friends in Wisconsin that work for Turning Point, and there's Michael. And it's great that he is providing such a good example to Generation Z men. So again, if you want to learn more about Michael, then you'll go to his website. And Evita, let's see, I'm going to get some of I always want anyone who's listening to the guests that we bring on, make sure that you follow them, you subscribe, like, because they are all tremendous. You can follow Evita right here on X at Evita Duffy_1. So be sure to follow Evita on X at Evita Duffy_1. And you can follow Michael Alfonso, running for Congress in Wisconsin, at Mike Alfonso Wisconsin, right here. And so go ahead and follow these amazing young Gen Z warriors for Wisconsin and for the country. They're doing great work. So thanks for joining me. I'm Scarlett Johnson, and this is Moms for Liberty Unleashed. Hey everyone, welcome to Unleashed with Scarlett Johnson, presented by Moms for Liberty. And today I am joined by a special guest, Alexa Anderson. She is a collegiate track and field athlete from Oregon and one of the few young women in America brave enough to take a public stand for fairness in female sports. I'm so glad that you could join me, Alexa. We first met in person when we were in Orlando at the Moms for Liberty Joyful Warrior Summit, where you were a panelist on one of our favorite events that we did of the summit. You were with Jennifer Say, and you're with your other two friends that will be joining me later on today. And we're going to discuss kind of the same thing. So I want to introduce you to everyone first. I got a little bit of your bio from your mom. Yes, and it says you're wonderful.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm glad she has good things to say.
You're amazing. So, very proud mom, very proud parents. You are a student athlete from Oregon. You're originally from Oregon. You compete in track and field for the University of South Alabama. You were an Oregon high school state champion in the pole vault. Trouble speaking much, yeah. And finished off your senior year 8th in the nation. That's really impressive. Since then, you've become an advocate for the protection of women's sports after taking a stand against Oregon's allowance of biological males in the women's sports division. So that's like just a little nutshell, but there's so much more to learn about you. And I want to talk about the fact that you were just recently given an award. That is very prestigious. But let's start off with just to talk about yourself, like when did you start playing sports and what has female sports meant to you?
I have been an athlete from as long as I can remember. My parents put me into gymnastics when I was young. I was just that crazy, energetic kid that needs somewhere to go. So I was a gymnast for about 9 years until my freshman year of high school. And then from there, I moved on to play volleyball and track and field for my entire high school career. So in track and field, I do the events of pole vault and high jump mainly. And then I did volleyball my entire high school career. Now I do track and field in college. But women's sports has been so crucial to me growing into who I am. It's really been a safe space for me to not only grow as an athlete, but grow as a person and learn about my independence, motivation, time management, all these different skills that it has given me that have helped me get to where I am today to be a collegiate athlete.
So now you talked that you were in gymnastics young, and I'm the mom of 4 girls, and they have all been in different athletic, things. My oldest daughter, she was a really good ballerina. She was very into ballet when she was little, since she was 2 years old, and all the way up until high school. I have another daughter that plays basketball. She's in high school, and she's been playing basketball since she was in kindergarten. I have daughters that have played, all sports. I have one that's she's really into cheer, track and field. My son, soccer, tennis. So it's a huge commitment, right? Since you're little, like when you were involved in gymnastics, what did that entail for you?
When I was involved in gymnastics, I was a competitive gymnast, which means I was part of a competitive team that would travel and stuff. So from the age of about 7 years old, I believe, I was practicing 25 to 30 hours a week. We'd have practice 5 days a week, about 4.5, 5 hours a day from the age of 6 all the way up until about, I think I was 14 or 15 when I quit that sport.
Yeah, and you didn't take time off in the summers, right? You were competing, then driving, going to events, driving probably around your community, then your state, and then probably the whole country, because that's how it is now. With even by the time kids are in middle school, they are in clubs, they are competing, they have to have lots of practices, lots of personal training, all of that, right?
Yes, ma'am. It's a huge commitment, not only for me, but for my family and everything as well, to be involved in so many sports that are so high intensity from such a young age.
What made you stop doing gymnastics and to start to do sports in high school?
I quit gymnastics because I kind of outgrew it. I am 5'11", a little tall for gymnasts. If you look at our Olympic team, I think the tallest one was about 5'3". So I quit just because it wasn't right for my body type. But I went into high school athletics. I joined volleyball, obviously, because I'm tall. And then in track and field, I mean, pole vault's about the closest you can get to gymnastics. You're going upside down, you're swinging over bars on this bendy stick. So I saw that, I'm like, hey, I want to go do that. That looks awesome.
And then when you're involved in high school athletics, then you're part of the whole school, the school spirit. Where I know when my daughter was in ballet, and they didn't have any sort of ballet in middle school, so she often had to do things separate from everyone else. She couldn't go to events like everyone else, and when she got to high school, she made the decision to do dance and track and field at high school, just like you did, because she wanted to have a normal high school life. Was that part of your decision making too?
Yes, I mean, I think that the team aspect of sports and being involved in that community, especially amongst a high school, is so amazing and so important. I made so many friends that I am still friends with to this day. They're all back in Oregon. I'm out here in Alabama, and we still all talk because we were brought together by this sport that had us training together for hours, weeks, months, and just going through all these life milestones together. So it's a really amazing thing to be involved in.
And it's great for girls to be involved in sports because, like you said, the camaraderie, the discipline, and you're so busy from a parent perspective, you guys are so busy, you can't get into trouble.
Yeah.
You can't party. You just have to study and do your sport, do the training. Usually you're involved in some extracurricular clubs so that you can stay conditioned for your sport when the season comes. So yeah, parents of girls love their girls to be involved in sports because they tend to be really nice girls. All of my daughter's friends, they're all such really sweet girls, and they don't get into a lot of trouble. They just don't have the time for it.
Yes, definitely. I'm so happy about all the people that I've met and grown close with through women's sports. It's really been a big part of my life. I mean, ever since I was little. So,
Yeah, it teaches you, learn things. There's important lessons, and it looks great on your college applications that you've participated and you've stuck with something.
yes, definitely.
And the team spirit. So what happened to you? What did you start to see in your high school that was concerning as far as female sports?
It wasn't directly in my high school, but in Oregon, the past couple years, we have started seeing a growing transgender population, which I am a huge believer in the fact that people should live their lives the ways that make them happy. And I am not someone to tell you who you can and cannot be. I am not transphobic. I'm not homophobic, anything like that. But as we are seeing this transgender population in these states grow, in states like Oregon, we don't have any protections for who is allowed into women's sports. The only statement in the Oregon Schools Activities Association handbook is that athletes can compete in their consistently asserted gender identity. So as soon as they alert the school that they've transitioned genders, they're just coming into the female category with fully biological male, like hormone levels, all that kind of stuff. So we started seeing that in Oregon, which was very concerning to me, not only from a safety standpoint, but from a fairness standpoint.
So even if you're in a school where maybe you don't have a specific policy, you're lucky enough, especially in Oregon, you're lucky enough to not have a policy that takes the word sex out of their handbook, but meaning biological sex, male and female, and
Yes.
instead inserts gender, which I don't believe in anymore. There was 5 years ago, I didn't understand the difference between gender and sex, and now because gender is this amorphous, it can be anything. It's self-determined. Every day you can decide to be a different gender. And that quote is direct from, I have been to seminars that are professional development for educators, and that is exactly what they say. Every day, a kid can come into the classroom and be a different gender, and it's a surprise every day. And this educator said, and I'm learning every day. Every day there's something new. There's a new gender. So when they try to tell you that they don't believe that they just believe in gender doesn't mean that you can't identify as a rock, they're actually not being truthful, because there are even guides to using rock pronouns and a lot of nonsense. It's a lot of nonsense. But that policy means that anyone can just any day walk in and say, I identify as a female, even though they are a male, they presented as a male for all of their, all of the time that they've been in the school. Say, I'm a male, I'm a female now, and I want to try out for the female team. I want to use female bathrooms, female locker rooms, and schools can shrug their shoulders and say, well, what can we do? That's what they identify as. So we just have to go along with it. And that is something that you heard about, but you didn't see in your own school. So when did you first have to compete against a biological male?
I first competed against a biological male this past spring in the 2025 track and field state championships. There was an athlete from another school who I was aware was transgender, and I had found out had made it to this meet, and that was the first time that I had competed with them.
And did you know ahead of time that this person was going to be, I'm going to bring up the news story. Did you know ahead of time that this person was going to be competing with you?
Yes, ma'am. They had been competing in the women's division all year. I just hadn't personally competed against them.
And so here, I'm pulling this up. There we go. So this was about 5 months ago, correct?
Yes, it was in May.
In May. So, so what happened? So describe to us, who we weren't there. Now, I had been watching this story, and I know that there were members of Moms for Liberty and other parental rights organizations that started to attend these events because this became such just a huge viral story, such an obvious injustice. So describe the events of the day. What happened?
Yeah, we went into the meet just like you would normally start it out. We all competed, we jumped. I know that I personally, as well as several other girls, had considered not even competing at this meet because we just didn't feel that it was fair. But at the end of the day, I chose to compete not only for myself because it was my senior year, but for my team because I was in a place where I could score points to help out my team. And that just wouldn't be fair to take away that from them as well. So we decided to compete. I took third. Reese Eckerd, the other girl who stepped off the podium, she took fourth. And the transgender athlete tied for fifth. Me, Reese, and several of the other girls were kind of talking. We were very upset by the lack of protections that the people in Oregon haven't given us girls in our sports. And we all kind of talked about, what should we do? So Reese and I decided we're going to step off the podium. Like, we're going to send a message that this isn't a fair competition. This isn't fair protections for all of us girls. And there are so many girls who are going to be losing opportunities, losing titles, that kind of stuff to biological men. So many other girls had said they were going to step off the podium with us, but in front of all those eyes, it was really scary. So Reese and I ended up stepping off together, and I'm very grateful that she was by my side for all of this.
Although at least you had some, and now I'm going to play right here. I'm going to play a little clip that's on, and I don't know if everyone will get here. Let's try and get this.
It's our top finalists in the 6'8" girls high jump. In 8th place from Lincoln, Lily Mather. In 7th place from Grants Pass, Callie Brandis. A tie for 5th place, Grants Carly Gendritza. Also in 5th place from Miami Wells, Leah Rose. 4th place honors to Sherwood, Reese Eckerd. In 3rd place from Tiger, Alexa Anderson. Your runner-up from South Bedford, Paige Shepard. And your 2025 6'8" girls high jump state champion, she jumped 5'1" for Mountainside, Catherine Phillips.
So you can see from that clip, I know because you could be distracted by the setting up in the front, but you could see when they were calling you up to the podium, the two of you step down and then you turn your back to the podium and very respectfully just put your hands, behind your back, and you're just very respectfully doing something that is a peaceful protest and completely, I think amazing and brave. Because like you said, look at all of those people around you. And you decided you just had to you had to say something. You had to say, like, this isn't right. I can't go along with this. So what happened afterwards?
Yeah, afterwards, we stepped off the podium. An official kind of told us, you guys need to get out of the way. We're going to take some photos. So we got out of the way, which is kind of upsetting because we weren't allowed to kind of protest and use our First Amendment rights. But after that, we left that meet. I honestly didn't think anything was going to come of that. I was like, oh, 2 high school girls stepped off the podium. No one really knows why. No one probably really cares. And all of a sudden, I get all these messages that, like, Riley Gaines is reposting what we did. And all these other people are just reaching out with support, saying, like, hey, we saw what you did. Congratulations. Thank you for standing up. And it has just turned into this really amazing thing. And I'm so happy to be a part of this movement, the movement to protect girls' sports, along with so many other inspiring girls.
Yeah, it became a very big deal because of social media. social.
Yes.
There was a recording of what happened.
Powerful moment in Oregon when two female high school track stars refused to share the podium with a biological male athlete at the state's track and field championship back in May.
So we're going to get back to this, but just to see, that's a better, clear picture of what you guys were doing there. And I've got right here. So here's a kind of close up. And there you're getting your award, which we'll talk about later too. But so this image just goes completely viral. Millions and millions of millions watch this and repost it, and they cheer you on. And there's haters too.
Yes, there are.
So there was some of that. So what happened when you got home and suddenly you realize this is going completely viral? Riley Gaines is reposting this. Were you asked by news outlets to come speak, to get on the news?
Yes, pretty much as soon as it happened, the next day we were getting emails, text, Instagram DMs from people supporting people who were like, hey, we want to talk to you, we want to interview you guys. Just a lot happened really, really fast. I was just in complete shock.
And then, then you had to turn to your parents, right? And your parents had to decide, what are we going to do with this? So how did that conversation go?
My parents have been amazing. They have always supported me in everything. And I had talked to them before the meet and I said, hey, this is what is going on. This is what we're thinking about doing. And they're like, we love you. We have your back, like whatever you want. So after the meet, when we started getting all of this attention, and it was kind of like, oh, what do we do now? I was talking to my mom about it. She's like, Alexa, you're 18 years old. It's your choice. This is your fight. You can choose to continue it and continue standing up, or you can kind of take a step back. And I kind of took that personally. I was like, I don't want to take a step back now. I've already stood up. I've already put myself out there in a uncomfortable situation because this is such a sensitive topic for so many people. And I'm not going to back down now. I'm going to continue voicing my opinion until we can get change and get these protections.
So at this time, had you already accepted have you decided where you were going to college? Did you think that this decision was going to affect your ability to go to the college of your choice?
I had already committed to a college in Alabama, which is typically a very conservative state. So I was not too worried about what would come from that. But I was definitely worried about like the institution, like since all these are public institutions, is there going to be any backlash from my high school? Is there going to be any backlash from my potential college in the future? It was definitely kind of like a waiting game, getting in touch with people, seeing, hey, is this all okay? Like, are we all good? You know?
How did this go with your friends? How in your community, did you face any backlash, or was it mostly supportive?
It was about 50-50. I mean, I had a lot of people who were super, super kind, who were reaching out to me, coming up to me in person, but I also had a lot of friends at school who were just not being super nice, and people who were calling my high school and like threatening them and saying, expel this girl, like all this kind of crazy stuff, and making threats about like me walking at graduation, potential stuff like that. And it was just crazy to see so much hate come from such a peaceful kind of movement that we were trying to create. So it was very mixed.
So, and now for adults, especially like me or like a lot of our followers, it might be something that they're used to seeing. They're used to kind of the hate from the left if you've been an activist, but you're just a kid. Have you ever experienced anything like this before, where you're getting DM'd, messaged, emailed, like vile kind of hateful messages?
No, never. Honestly, I didn't think that was something that ever really happened. Like you see it, you hear people talk about it, but just in my mind, I could never imagine seeing someone standing up for what they're believing in and then just going to their Instagram and sending like a horrible, hateful, threatening message. Like I could just never see that happening. So it's really hard for me to just open stuff up and see all these hateful comments directed at me, because I could just never imagine doing that to someone, even if I disagree with them, you know? So it was crazy.
Even this athlete, you didn't say anything mean or untoward. You never attacked them personally. You've never even through like the keyboard warriors that have no courage. Like, you've never done any of that, even if you disagree with them, even if you don't agree that they as a male have any right to participate in female athletics and unfairly. You've never said anything unkind towards them. I know I already know this about you, but it doesn't seem very fair, right?
Yeah, because so much of this, it's not about the individual athletes. It's not about the transgender people in the world. It's about the adults in charge who have failed to protect us girls in our sports. That is who we are trying to get the attention of and who we are trying to say we are not okay with what they're doing. At the end of the day, all of us up on that podium were just kids. We're all just learning who we are, trying to go through life, and we were failed by the adults in charge who didn't protect us. So that's who I have a problem with. I do not have any problem with any of the athletes who are up on that podium or any transgender people, anything like that.
Yes, you're right. The adults have failed you. That's who have failed. That there is a child that is allowed to that is actually encouraged or affirmed as they suffer from a mental illness, a discomfort with their body, that adults are affirming and allowing that child to live this lie, but also to compete and to with biological females. I don't blame the kid. I blame the adults. I say the adults have failed in their job to do their job and to do what's right, do what's fair, and to protect all children, all children. And I think, have you ever had an experience like with Paula Scanlon, like with Riley Gaines, where you've had to change in a locker room with a biological male?
No, I thankfully have not.
Because that's even more terrifying, in my opinion. That's scary. You feel a sense of injustice when you have to compete in a track event with a biological male. But I think you feel a sense of terror, and that you when you have to change, or they're in your shower room in your private area.
Yes, that just it would feel like an invasion of privacy to me. I would feel very uncomfortable just not having someone of my same sex in a locker room that's supposed to be a protected, a safe area where we can change and kind of do all of our stuff. Just the fact that biological men are allowed to do that and can just say, I feel like a girl, I'm gonna go into this locker room today. Like, it's just a very uncomfortable situation.
Especially now you're grown up. Imagine 10-year-old little girls. What about middle school girls who are already, I mean, when we're 13, how shy and uncomfortable we are. We don't even want to change in front of other girls. More or less, biological boys or men that are allowed to use these spaces, it's just uncomfortable. It doesn't feel right.
Yes, definitely. And it can be unsafe, especially if it's someone who's coming in there with ill intentions, who just sees this as an opportunity to get into women's spaces. That's really what I think a huge problem is these people who aren't even transgender, who just see these as opportunities to come into women's spaces and do stuff like that. I think that's really a big problem because that's a safety issue for everybody.
And now do you play volleyball in college in Alabama?
No, I do not. I just do track.
You do track, but you played volleyball when you were in high school.
Yes.
And that's more of contact sport in the sense that, my daughter played volleyball for a little while and we go to the volleyball games. But when they're when you're spiking the ball, I mean, that is pretty fast and it can cause damage, as we have seen. Now there's an issue where having a biological male on an all-female team competing can be a safety issue because it's a team sport and there are injuries.
Yeah, definitely, especially in more contact sports like volleyball, like basketball, soccer, all that kind of stuff. If we keep seeing this issue progress before we can get protections, I think we're going to see so many more injuries by girls just because these biological men, they do tend to be bigger, they tend to be stronger, they tend to have more testosterone, which makes them faster, more powerful. So putting them in that kind of closed space where they're going to be like in physical contact, kind of in these physical sports, I think that's just gonna be really dangerous and not safe for anyone out on the fields.
How do you feel when adults, because I've seen it, adults will tell you that there's no biological difference between males and females. Testosterone doesn't make a difference. I mean, as an adult, I'm like, are you crazy? But as a kid, when you see adults telling you that, how does that make you feel about adults and how you look at the world?
When I hear people that talk like that, it just part of it kind of amazes me, but part of it I also maybe they don't understand. Maybe they haven't participated in sports. I kind of try to see both sides of it, that maybe they don't understand the difference, but then I also think about the biology classes I've taken my entire life, the sports I've participated in, how men's volleyball nets are higher than women's volleyball nets because men can jump higher. There's just all these little things throughout life that kind of differentiate the ability of men and women. And that's not to say that women aren't capable and amazing and strong and powerful. Just the way that we're built, we don't have the same athletic advantages as men. And I think it's kind of an obvious thing when you think about biology, when you look at the stats of the average height of a man, average weight, like how fast they can run a mile, that kind of stuff. It's always going to be greater for men than it is for women. And I just see that as a science-based thing. So when I hear people talking about that, I just kind of hope that they take a biology class.
So I'm going to pull up, and I talked with Jennifer Say yesterday. I know you know her well.
Yes.
And this is a website we were discussing, shewon.org. And I've used this when I've gone to testify for protections for women and girls in sports. And what's really interesting here, and I encourage anyone, if they are sort of faced with these bad arguments that, oh, it's, you know what, there's no difference, that's old science, you know, there's new science, or they say this isn't happening, biological men aren't taking the spots of biological females. So here she won, and according to Jennifer, this is actually outdated numbers. She has some other numbers that are actually higher, but you can see the number of female athletes, the number of medals, competitions, and sports, the opportunities lost to women. And here, I mean, here you go. It's thousands, and
Yeah.
and if you want to, and this is, there's just really good data. So you could see, look at track and field. This is your area. So that
Yes.
is the area where a lot of these males are pretending to be females, claiming to be females. And look at 1,932 males are participating in female sports right now. That's a lot to me. One is too many,
Yeah.
but this is a lot. And I think now we're not seeing as much in these more contact sports, but we definitely will if we don't change. These are the number of lost podium spots: first place, second place, third place.
Yeah.
So
It's a lot.
it's a lot. And so when you stood up, this is you're fighting to make this stop, because it will
Yes.
only grow. It will only grow. And there's more data here, and I know I'll stop sharing, but there's more data there that will talk to you about, so that you can have this debate. It is a slam dunk, one that you can win. Unfortunately, you can't just say, oh, look at the differences, even though it's so obvious. Look at the differences. Yes, there's a difference between men and women. Doesn't make one superior to the other. It's just different. It is why we have female sports and why Title IX was created, to protect women, to give them opportunities that they did not have prior to 1972. Title IX gave women opportunities to actually play sports, to play them in high school, to have those sports funded equally, and then the protections so that women and girls would not be harassed and bullied and face sex discrimination. It was inherently a binary, male, female. And when you change the definition of women to include anybody who can claim they're a woman, then Title IX is eviscerated, because the whole point of it is to protect women and to give females opportunities in athletics and in academics. These are opportunities that were not afforded to women. These are new. These are relatively new. And it's just shocking to me. I'm sorry, I'm going on my rant right now. But what do you think of women who call themselves feminist and who deny biological reality and tell you that a woman is anything that if you put on lipstick and you grow your hair out and you paint your nails and you say, hey, I'm a woman, that makes you a woman? What do you think of the so-called feminists who espouse that view?
I think it's a very complicated topic because in the world of sports, like we are separated for a reason because we have different abilities. In the walks of life, I don't care how people choose to live their life because it's none of my business. If they choose that they want to be they were born a male, they want to be a female, they want to dress up like a woman, all that kind of stuff. I don't think that's my business or my place to tell them. It is my business when it starts to affect me and other girls and our opportunities that we should be having but are taken away by biological males, like the girls who didn't even get to go to state because they were beat by a biological man at districts, or the girls who didn't get to even be on that podium or were bumped down a place and scored less points for their team. When it starts to affect others, I think that's when it becomes an issue.
Yes, for me, and I agree. When it comes to how an individual chooses to live their life, that's up to them. It's about when there's the demand that I affirm it or that I deny biological reality and truth and tell them what they want to hear instead. Like Jennifer says, their feelings don't trump facts, and their feelings don't mean that. I don't have to affirm anyone's feelings. I have the right to not do that. And so how one wants to live their life, that's up to them. They just can't tell me that I have to affirm it, that I have to participate, and that I have to celebrate it. Now, that is when my First Amendment rights get infringed. And that's when my values have to take a second place to someone else's. And then that's not fair. So
yes, I definitely agree. That's kind of what happened to us when we expressed our concerns, expressed our frustrations with this issue. Our First Amendment rights were violated. We were not really allowed to speak on this. We were kind of pushed off to the side, being like, you guys can't do that, like kind of shut down in our movement. And
yeah, so if this person's in your school and they're not using your spaces and they're not demanding to be recognized as a biological female and they're not competing against you or with you in sports, you don't have a problem. It's only a problem when your biological reality is challenged and when your safety is at stake and when fairness is kind of thrown out the window.
yes, I think that's the main issue. There is no protections. There is no protections for girls' safety and girls' spaces, and that's really what we want. We're not out here trying to tell anyone you can't live your life like this because we all have one life. Live it the way that you feel happiest, but don't let it affect other people in a negative way. We need these kind of protections so that people can't see this as an opportunity to be like, oh, hey, I can go compete in girls' sports if I want to. I can go into the girls' locker rooms if I want to. We need to take it away as an opportunity for people to be able to do that because that's not okay. It's not safe. It's not fair.
Yeah.
And honestly, it compromises the integrity of women's sports to be allowing biological men in, because what happens when they start setting national records? Are those ratified? Are they kind of like taken a secondary to the actual record? Like we don't know.
And now there's a recent, I don't know if you've heard about Tish, so I'm going to pull this up because it's something that Tish Hyman, and she is a Black lesbian. She's an artist, and she has gone viral because she was in her gym working out, and there was an obvious male that walked into the women's changing space. And this is a guy that looks, has like a little bit of lipstick on an eyeliner, and looks like a male. And that wasn't the first instance. There were many others. And so this is her first time, kind of like with you, her first time speaking out, where she went viral because she's like, hey, get out. You can't be in there. You can't be in there. And when she did that, they kicked her out, and they took away her membership to this gym. And now she's really fighting back. This is a person, a Democrat, considered like who never voted Republican. And now this one instance has her eyes opened because, she's had some conversations with friends of mine where she's like, I now can see like reality. I didn't understand until this happened to me. And now she's being called a bigot. Of all things, she is a Black lesbian, an outspoken and famous. And now she's a bigot, which is insane. That's insane. So I think that goes to show they'll call anyone a name just if they don't align, if they won't, alter their reality and be nice. And by being nice, it means I will sacrifice myself, I will sacrifice my children, and I will sacrifice my values on the altar of your ideology. And anyone who participates in that ritual, I feel sorry for them if they sacrifice what they believe in for that, because you lose a little bit of your soul when you participate in a lie. And I'm so glad that you, so young, so very young, recognized that there are eternal truths and there are things that a person just absolutely must stand up for. And that's very rare, Alexa. Very, very rare.
Thank you. Yeah, I think people are going to disagree throughout all walks of life. Nobody's ever going to agree on anything. And a huge problem that we see here is people aren't willing to hear out the other side. They jump to name calling. They jump to hateful things. Nobody listens. People will see what I've done, but they won't hear what I say when I talk, when I tell them what it's about, what I stand for. And they jump to all these names of, you're a horrible person, you're a bully, like you hate everyone, like all this kind of stuff. And it's just hard because I want to have an honest conversation. I want to talk with the people who disagree. I want to hear their side. I want to share mine. I want to see if we can find common ground, find an understanding, or if not, we go about our days and we live our lives respectfully. We don't need to be at each other's throat because we don't disagree. I think that's one of the hardest things about all these issues.
Yeah, we don't. And that's what we are a better country when we don't all agree on everything. And friends can disagree, family can disagree. We don't have to have a unimind. We don't have to all think alike. And believe me, I have been involved in conservative politics for a long time. And no one, I'm telling you, especially because conservatives are very much individuals and their nature is to not agree. So it's okay. It's okay to not agree on everything. It's okay to have your different religions, different values, everyone's living a different life. It's when you try to impose your values on somebody else. And when you are in denial of reality too, that is important. We have to say, if a kid if a parent has a child that is struggling through this identity issue, the best thing to say is, no, you are a boy, and I love you so much, and I am here for you, and I'm going to do everything I can to get you through this. But what I won't do is I won't let you live a lie. And through love, we are going to get through this. I'm going to fight for you. And I think that's the healthy thing to do, and that's the right thing to do. But again, that's my opinion, and you can take it or leave it. But I'm allowed to have it, and
yes,
everyone else is allowed to have their opinion as well. And I mean, that's who we are. I mean, when people really talk to us, they realize like, oh wait, you're not a monster who hates everybody. That's, oh, okay, you're a decent person who's actually more tolerant and open-minded than those on the left. That's what I find every day of the week and twice on Sunday. More tolerant, more open-minded, demonstrably more kind, and you exemplify that. Now, I want to play some really good news that you were the recipient of a really prestigious award. And I'm going to bring this up, and we're going to. That's an image of you pole vaulting, which is also very beautiful.
Both honored at last night's Patriot Awards, receiving the Most Valuable Patriot Award.
I'm so incredibly grateful, and none of this would have been possible without the support of every single one of you who has seen our story, who has shared it and brought our story and our fight into the national spotlight. So thank all of you.
I want to start off by thanking God. I thank God that you're all here tonight. And I thank God that He gave Alexa and I the courage to stand for truth. I also want to thank everyone, especially my parents, who have supported me, encouraged me, and believed in me, even when I was unsure of the impact our decision to step off the podium would have. There are so many girls who deserve this award for their courage.
And joining us now are those Patriot Award winners. We have Alexa Anderson and Reese Eckerd. So nice to see both of you. Congratulations on receiving this award. Not easy to stand up for what you believe in. What was the reaction first from getting that award? What are your thoughts there? And what was the reaction from your friends?
Oh my gosh, to get that award was honestly just such an honor. It was never something that I thought would happen when we stepped off that podium. So I was so incredibly honored and so grateful and so happy to be here with you today. And then friends and family have been very, very supportive. I'm so grateful for everyone. My mom who's here with me today. I love you guys. So
that's amazing. You need those people to surround you because people will write the nastiest things online. Reese, how about you? Both of y'all are at the college level now. You're at South Alabama, and you're at Biola, which is a Christian school in California. So you've continued to pursue your dreams with track. But what did that mean to you to receive this award and to be recognized for standing up for what you believe in?
Wow, it's just crazy to be able to stand up for all the girls who are trying to compete in just high school or college, just knowing that we fought so hard to protect women's rights in sports, and to be able to say that we took a stand is just amazing.
Alexa, the moment that y'all stood, you stepped off that podium and you turned your back, they stripped your medals from you. There was a lawsuit. Was it worth it?
100%. I think fighting for the rights of women in sports to have a safe and fair environment, this is going to be a fight that we're going to be part of for years, maybe even our lifetime. And it is so incredibly worth it if we can help all these girls to have a safe and fair environment.
Yeah, we saw Riley Gaines stand up for women, and then she became pregnant and had a little girl. So it's interesting how God gave her a girl. She was standing up for the future of children, of girls, of women. Was it worth it to you, Reese?
100%. Yeah, I have two younger sisters who I think will compete at least in high school and maybe in college, but just I was always just reminded that I wanted to stand up for them and for all the future girls.
Yeah. Elizabeth Eddy, I'm sure you're familiar with her story. She wrote an op-ed about this. She is a National Women's Soccer League player, a very good player, and she wrote this op-ed just saying that the Women's Soccer League needs to come up with some guidelines, and she got a lot of pushback, a lot of heat for it. Brian Kilmeade interviewed her the other day. Here's a little bit of her speaking on Fox and Friends.
I would say in the professional sports world, it's really tricky because speaking out is a really difficult thing to do because think about it. The mindset as a pro athlete is I work my entire life for this. I'll do anything it takes, whatever the cost. And then the flip side of that is even if I stay silent, even if I go along to get along, I'm willing to do that to play. So I think at the end of the day, a lot of my teammates, a lot of my peers do agree with what I'm trying to share, but they want to play back more than they want to speak up. And I understand that. And so there's a lot of fear involved because there's a high cost for it.
So Alexa, she handled that with grace. She said, I'm getting a lot of name calling, even from some of her teammates. And she said, I'm getting married. I still want them all to come to my wedding. What's your reaction?
I think that is so amazing of her to be such a big person that way, especially towards people who are being hateful towards her, because this message isn't about hate. Anything that she's saying, we're saying, none of this is about hate. None of this is about transphobia. It's just about protecting women and women's rights. So I applaud her for standing up and being so kind and gracious while doing it.
Reese, it's not for you. People can live their lives however they want, but this is about fairness and standing up for women so that we're not injured when we're playing sports against someone who's stronger.
Yeah.
What's your reaction to Elizabeth Eddy?
Yeah, I completely agree with Alexa and the fact that it's just about fairness in sports, not about what we think about if they want to be whatever they want to be, but it's just about sports and fairness and protecting girls.
Yeah. Well, I'm very proud of y'all. It's not easy to do what you're doing at the college level, so congratulations.
That was a great interview. That's a great interview. So talking about Elizabeth Eddy and what she's done, what do you think of what she's done? That took a lot of courage as well. And what effect do you think that's going to have on professional sports for women?
Yeah, I mean, seeing a professional athlete stand up for this issue was honestly really amazing. I was really inspired by that, and that she's so, like, she wants to fight this issue as much as we do. I think that's amazing, and the way that she's doing it is just so beautiful. She's been very kind. She's been very gracious with everything she says. She's spreading the same message we are, that we want protections. We want fairness. We don't want anything else. We're not out here trying to say anything else. We're not out here trying to spread hate. And I think that is so inspiring to have an elite level, a professional level athlete that has that kind of platform to be able to spread this message. And I think it's going to have a huge impact coming from her, someone with her kind of influence. I think that's amazing.
Yes, and this isn't political for you. This isn't you didn't ask to be in the headlines. It's not something you wanted. You just wanted to stand up and do something right, and you just felt that in your heart. And that's really important, because they'll try and say, oh, this is political, or this isn't political for you guys. You guys, you're young. You've never been involved in anything like this before. Elizabeth Eddy, this isn't political for her. This is just about sincerely trying to do the right thing in the face of a whole lot of evil. It's really hard. It's the easiest thing in the world to just go along. It's the easiest thing for you to just go along. For Elizabeth to never say anything, for Riley to never say anything, it would be so easy. No one would say a word, but to do the right thing and to plant your feet and say to the world, no, you move, that's really brave. So when you were at this event, who did you get to meet?
Oh my goodness, there were so many amazing people there that we got to see, that we got to meet. Erica Kirk was there. She accepted an award. Melania Trump was there. She accepted an award.
Did you get to meet them?
I didn't get to meet them. I saw them on stage. I was kind of off in the corner. But
good enough
yeah,
for me.
there were so many other amazing Patriot Award winners. There was a young man who risked his life to save people who were in a car accident with like electrical fire. We got to meet him, hear his story. That was beautiful. There were so many amazing people there. And then, of course, we got to do an interview with Ainsley, which she is just so lovely. She was so incredibly kind. And she took a picture with us afterwards, which, of course, I'm going to cherish for the rest of my lifetime. So it was an amazing experience.
Now, that's the kind of award ceremony that I love to watch, and I loved watching it. Not the Academy Awards with all this strange, like Hunger Games, like costumes and weird people. This was this was an award ceremony for heroes, for everyday heroes, for Americans doing the right thing, people who love their country. I love that Fox Nation is putting this on every year. As a matter of fact, Moms for Liberty was given during their very first award ceremony. Moms for Liberty was given an award. So, and they cherish that, the founders. So, I think that's amazing. And your dress was really pretty.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Now, you mentioned, and just briefly, so there was a lawsuit, right? And you prevailed. Yes. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so there are actually 2 active lawsuits in Oregon right now. There is a Title IX lawsuit against the OSA, the Oregon Schools Activities Association, about their Title IX violations, infringing upon girls' rights and violating Title IX. So that is one lawsuit. And then there is another lawsuit that is specifically centered around Reese and I, and our our First Amendment rights being violated when we were not allowed to peacefully protest, when we were not allowed to speak our truth. So those are the two active lawsuits that are going on right now. Neither have reached a conclusion, but I believe they're looking into settlements. I'm not exactly sure where that stands. I believe they're looking into settlements. They're gonna kind of go from there, see what happens.
So right now, and I'll pull this up, I have that. And who is representing you?
We are represented by a company called AFPI. They had first been in touch with Reese before the state meet where we took a step down, and then afterwards they kind of reached out to me and were like, hey, we would love to help you guys out. And they have been so amazing. They have been wonderful, amazing people.
America First Policy Institute, their legal team is representing you. I met your lawyer behind the scenes. She's wonderful, and we are great friends with AFPI. They do great work, and I'm so glad that they are representing you, because we don't have these public interest law firms engaging in these types of lawsuits. They're very expensive. I mean, your parents could not afford to do this. I know when I was sued, I couldn't afford to defend myself, and you wouldn't be able to afford to pursue this kind of legal action because the expertise required and how expensive it is. So it's great that there are these public interest law firms that are engaging in these cultural issues, because I really do think that at the end of the day, we're going to win these in the courts. We're going to win our rights in the courts.
Yes, definitely. I'm so grateful for them and everything they've done, how kind they've been and supportive. And they haven't just been like business lawyers. They've been calling us, being like, hey, are you guys okay? Like, how's everything going? Is there anything we can do to help? They've not only been professional, but they've been amazing, genuine people as well.
Yes, that's great. They are amazing. And so as we close, what message do you hope that other young women take from your example? From first stepping down from the podium to make a statement, to continuing on with athletics in college, and now you just got this award, and you're sticking with your lawsuit because you're determined to protect women and girls. What message do you want to send to young women who are watching this right now and who are big fans?
My message to all the girls out there who may be experiencing something similar or who are just watching is that you matter. Everybody matters, and they should have their spaces to be safe, to have fun, to learn, and to grow, and that your thoughts and your feelings are valid, and you need to express those. Nothing's going to happen. I'm going to quote Reese real quick because I love what she said. Nothing's going to happen if we do nothing. If you want change, you have to fight for it. So whatever you feel, whatever you value, go out there, make it heard, and fight for what you believe in. That's what I have to say to all of them.
And if there is a high school or middle school girl that loves her sport and she's competing, and there is a biological male either on her team or in her conference, so someone that she has to compete with, what is your advice to her as she's wondering, what do I do? As her family's wondering, what do we do about this? What should we do something? Should we say something?
My advice is to hold your truth, to do what feels right to you. In that moment for me, I knew that I would be very upset with myself if I didn't stand up for what I believe in. So if that's what you believe that that's not fair, you should stand up for that. And you should just continue fighting for what you think is right, because at the end of the day, someone has to say it. Someone has to go out there and start a fight, start a movement. And it's not going to happen if no one does it. So you got to stand up for what you believe in. You got to do what you think is right.
And would you tell them you're not alone, that there is a community now for you? Like Jennifer Sayes talked about that. You're building a community.
Oh my gosh, yes, of course. There are so many amazing and supportive people that when you stand up, people are going to have your back. There's going to be hate. There's going to be people who are mean, who don't understand. But more than that, there's going to be so many people who are rushing to stand behind you, who are telling you what you're doing is amazing. We got your back. Continue going. And I think that's such a huge part of why we've all been able to do this and continue with this fight. It's because of the supports, because of the community. I'm so grateful for everyone who's been a part of that.
Yes. And so now you're at the University of South Alabama. How do you see the future of women's sports, and what do you want college athletics to understand about protecting fairness?
In the future of women's sports, I hope that no other generations of female athletes will even have this issue cross their mind of who's allowed into their spaces. I hope this is never something that they even have to think about. And I hope that the people in charge who make these rules will really sit down and think, is this fair? Is this safe? Because at the end of the day, it's just not. And that's what we need people to realize, that this is about women's rights and protecting us females. And that's what we have to do.
Yes. And I think the more you speak out, the less likely that these individuals are going to participate, because maybe before everyone was quiet. Everyone just was quiet, and so it happened. But as soon as just a few speak out, then maybe an individual that thinks, oh, I'm going to, I competed as a male for the first 3 years of my collegiate life. This last year, I'm going to compete as a female, and smoke those girls. Like, they will think, you know what? I probably shouldn't, because I don't want my name splashed all out there. And, so I think I'll just not do that. And I think that's kind of what we'd want to do, is just not make it easy for men to invade and take away our opportunities and take away our spots on the podium, the spots for my daughter in college. I mean, these are college scholarships.
Yes.
How many girls depend on a college scholarship to go to study at the college of their dreams?
So many. College is an amazing experience, is an amazing education, but it comes with a very hefty price tag. And for people like me who have trained in athletics our whole lives, that's how we are getting ourselves through college, is through those opportunities that we got by being on that podium, being at those big meets. So we need to make sure that those spots aren't taken away, because this is how I'm going to continue the rest of my life. I'm getting my education and I'm going to use that in my future career. But if it weren't for sports, I wouldn't be able to be here now getting all of this information.
And I would say to someone who thinks they don't understand, literally, like, when someone cuts in a line, I have seen people go irate. Like, that's not fair. How dare you cut the line at Disney World? You cut a line, everyone goes irate. So imagine when a male with all of their advantages takes the spot of a female. So just for a second, think of how it feels to train so hard, to work so hard, to have that camaraderie, and then to have a male come in and then compete against them. It's just that sense of, like, this just isn't right. This isn't fair. It's not about being afraid to lose. When you're an athlete, you're used to losing. It's rare to win. You train so hard to win. It's not that you're like, oh, I don't want to lose. It's about the fairness of it. You're willing to lose if it's fair.
Yes, 100%. If you look at all of the handbooks anywhere in any sports division, no one is allowed to take testosterone because it is a performance enhancing drug. So when athletes have elevated testosterone levels, their performance is going to be better. So it's very contradictory to be able to say that, but to not be able to say that biological men have an advantage. And I think that that's just a very interesting part about it, and that none of us are scared of losing. I got third. I wasn't up there trying to argue saying, oh, I should have gotten first. I got third because that's how I performed. But the girl in ninth, she should have been an eighth on that podium. She should have scored a point. It's not about losing. In sports, it's about your own personal performance and how you do compared to how your best self does. And this isn't about losing. This is just about having those opportunities to be fair and safe.
Yeah. And for those who need a quick biology lesson, increase testosterone, increase muscle mass, increase lung capacity. There are so many things, we can look at. I'll post that, because sometimes I think people need a reminder that a male that goes through male puberty just has these inherent advantages, physical advantages. And I mean, that's why there are different standards for men and women when it comes to a lot of things as far as the performance. Now, doesn't mean that men are better than women. We're not saying any of that. It's just we have to be realistic, because if you apply the same standard to women as men, it's just not fair, and it's not in line with biological reality. Just as we have uteruses, we have a womb, we've got ovaries so we can have babies. There are things that we can do. We have a higher pain tolerance than men. And, this has nothing to do with men are smarter than women or anything like that. We are equal. We are equal. And believe me, my husband knows that. I might be more equal than him, but but it's nothing to do with that. It's just being real. That we just reality, because we love being women and we love our men, and we want you to be men. I love men and I love being a woman, and you just can't take that away from me and expect me to be quiet and sit down and shut up. So that's not going to happen. All right.
Yes.
Well, and you agree.
Yes. Yes.
All right, Alexa, thanks so much for coming on today. I know you have practice that you have to get to, but thank you for showing girls across America and the world what integrity looks like. And at a very young age, you're very special. I wish you all of success. I know that we'll talk again soon. At a different time, I'd like to talk to you not about this, just talk about being a Gen Z. Are you still Gen Z? Or
Yes, I am. I'm Gen Z.
The next generation, I forget what the name, Generation Alpha, I think. But just to kind of, because on my show, we like to I've talked to a lot of Gen Z women, just kind of, how do you see the future? Because I think we always talk about these issues, but I'm always interested also in just your opinion, just talking about, we've talked about fashion, things like that. So we could have a more fun,
I would love that. Yeah.
All right. Well, bye, Alexa. Thank you so much for coming on. And I wish you and your family all the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone, for joining this Moms for Liberty Unleashed with me, Scarlett Johnson. This is a great show. I have learned a lot, and I am so proud to elevate such a beautiful human being. Alexa is truly someone that my girls can admire, and that all the girls in America, girls around the world, can look up to and admire. And coming up next, I am going to have a conversation with Alexa's friends. They had different practice schedules. They are still very much involved in female athletics. So we will be talking to them very soon. So stay tuned. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unleashed with Scarlett Johnson, presented by Moms for Liberty. And I'm so excited to talk to my two guests today. I had already interviewed Alexa Anderson, your friends. You guys all joined us at the Moms for Liberty Joyful Warrior Summit in Orlando. And you were part of my favorite panel with Jennifer Say and talking about facing Goliath. These young girls have more courage than most adults that I come into contact with. And that's why I really wanted them on my show so that more people could learn their story. I think they're already pretty famous in our circles, but they inspire me, and I know that they're going to inspire you. So first, I'm going to introduce Maddie Wilcken and Sophia Carpenter. Hi, girls.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm so glad you could be here. I know we had to arrange around your school schedules because you are all still in high school. Maddie, you said you're a junior, right? And then you're a senior, Sophia, right? Okay, so yeah, so how it's getting towards that time where, you know, Christmas is coming, Thanksgiving. So are you doing finals? Do you do it by trimester, or do you just have 2 semesters?
Yeah, I have finals next week, actually.
Oh yeah, so you're stressing.
Yeah, I feel pretty good right now. I just have to get through them, and then I have Thanksgiving.
Yes, yeah, that's good. What about you, Maddie? Do you have, my daughter has been taking a lot of tests and she's got papers and presentations right now.
Yeah, I actually have a test this Friday for trigonometry, but I think I have like 2 more weeks. I have at least 2 more weeks until I have my break, but then I'll have a week off.
Yes.
And wrestling will start. So I'm really excited.
Oh, wrestling starts. So wrestling season, it aligns with basketball season, because that's, for me, it's basketball season starting for my daughter.
Yeah.
All right. So, and are you starting practices already?
Yeah, so I call it preseason because I'm 1-10, 1 team, but I practice with Thompson Valley, my home school, and then preseason just started up last week. So I call when I practice at Thompson Valley preseason, and now preseason, and then next week will actually be season. So.
Oh, it's cool that you're excited for practice to start and for your wrestling meets and all of that. So you're passionate about what you're doing. My daughter just put on her social media because I mean she does AAU all during the year because you have to be doing something. But for her high school, it's starting up. They've just had the tryouts and all of that, and so she put on her Instagram, going to my first practice. See you in 4 months. It's a busy season. When you're in high school, when you are in sports, it takes up a lot of your time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
And then Sophia, what's your sport?
My main sport, I do track and field. So I have the club season, which is indoor track. I have that coming up for the winter. So I'm excited about that. It's fun. You get to run on a 200-meter track instead of a 400-meter track.
Okay.
And then everything will really be important in the springtime. That's when I gotta lock in.
So what's your focus on in track and field? What are your events?
My main event is high jump. And then I also run the 200 and the 400 and the relays.
Okay. Yeah, my other daughter had done that. So it's a lot of fun. Do you do cross country at all?
Yeah, I used to do cross country. It's super fun, but I'm working on getting recruited for college track, and cross country wasn't benefiting that. So I've spent my fall doing weight training instead of cross country.
Yes, because you're a short distance runner, and you don't want to get an injury.
Yeah, exactly.
I know how this goes. I have 5 kids. We're doing all
You get it.
I get it. I know my daughter's not allowed to ski because I'm like, she can't get injured for basketball. She's not allowed to do like anything. So all her friends are skiing. Her coach is like, no skiing for y'all. Like, no one can get hurt.
That's rough.
Yeah. Especially where you guys are, I'm sure skiing a lot. But so you're here to talk about standing up. And so let's talk about the first time that you were aware that there were biological boys or men participating in sports, like in your sport, or whether it's in your school or outside of your school, in your conference.
I can go first.
Oh yeah, Sophia, you go first.
Okay. It was last spring, kind of towards the beginning of track season. We had a big invitational track meet at my high school. And I found out the night before the meet that I would be competing against a trans girl, a biological boy. And it threw me off. I didn't know what to do. I started crying, which I'm not a crier. It was very emotional for me. I never felt anything like that before. And so I just made up my mind and said, I'm going to compete. I'm not going to let it get to me. I'm stronger than this. He's not going to get in my way. I'm ranked higher than him. And we got to the meet, and I heard that my friends Reese and Maddie had decided to pull out of the competition and not compete, almost in a sense taking a knee and saying, this is wrong. We don't agree with this. And I thought I had every intention to go ahead and compete. But when they did that, I just felt prompted in the moment. I was like, I can't do this. I need to pull out of this meet. I couldn't explain why. I just felt like I really had to not compete. And so I pulled out, and they scratched my name off the list. And sure enough, he went on and won that meet, which I was looking forward to defending my title because I'd won it the year before. And it was really hard. I cried a lot that day. I had to keep racing afterwards. And it was just really confusing. But ultimately, I'm very glad I did that because I've had so many cool opportunities stem from that moment.
And what specific event did you pull out of?
Yeah, this was high jump. So my main event. And it was a hard choice because, like I mentioned earlier, I'm working on getting recruited for collegiate sports. And pulling out of a meet, especially a bigger meet like this where I have good competition, is not going to look good on my record. And it doesn't look good. It shows that I didn't clear the first height, which isn't true. I'm a much better jumper than the opening height at a meet. But coaches see that and go, why didn't she clear that? She should be a better athlete than this. And they question that. And so that's had an impact on my recruiting process.
And in what state do you go to school, so everyone knows?
I'm in Oregon.
You're in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And so was this a new thing? This biological boy, was he new, or is something you had heard about? Is this the first year he was competing as a girl?
Yeah. So to my knowledge, he had done track before a couple years prior as a boy in the boys division, and he wasn't winning. And now a couple years later, he came back, transitioned as a girl. Actually, I take that back. I'm not sure if he's transitioned or not.
Just decided to become a girl because that's all you have.
Exactly. Competed in the girls category. And, this is not unheard of. There are many. I had raced against other athletes, and I had seen, and my friends had competed with other trans athletes before. And so it wasn't unheard of. And honestly, I was just waiting for the day it would happen to me because I knew it would happen at some point. And that day came last April.
Especially in Oregon, where frankly, very, very woke laws there. And that's what I was talking about with the Lexite. Simply just deciding that if you're born a male, just making the declaration, I am a female, is enough. And it's ambiguous whether or not there's any requirements to show that they have undergone any sort of medical procedures or taken any medicine that would reduce their advantage. But that doesn't even matter, because as long as a male's gone through male puberty, there's nothing that can take away that biological advantage. That testosterone is there, the muscle mass is there, the increased lung capacity, all of that, that cannot be erased by so-called hormone therapies. And in my opinion, there's nothing that magically makes a boy into a girl. That's just not possible. There's male and female, and gender is just a word that people use, in my opinion. But so Maddie, what was your first experience? You're younger than Sophia.
Yeah, so I feel like I was kind of out of the loop actually until my freshman year, and we had a tournament, and it was a little confusing because it was boys and girls competing in the same area, but there was just the girls division and just the boys division.
Yeah.
And but when me and my whole team walked in, I kind of said this at the summit, but like our eyes kind of like went straight to this strong person, but we didn't really know what was happening, but we were like that person, it knows what they're doing, and like that sucks for whoever is gonna wrestle. And then we turned out it was me, and we didn't even know that was like the person was a girl, and I didn't find out till afterwards that it was a biological male. But while I was wrestling, I was like, oh my goodness, I was in disbelief. It was so fast. I can barely even remember it because I was in shock.
Mm-hmm.
And like this was kind of like the first thing like I haven't really like knew what was happening in the world. And so, but once I found out, it was just like, wow.
So you didn't even think it was a possibility. You didn't. So this was a meet. You walk in and you see someone that's, boy, that person's really strong, and like, boy, it sucks whoever would have to wrestle them. That's going to be hard. Then it turns out to be you, and it turns out that that's not a girl. That's a male that you're going to wrestle. And it all happens so fast because no one tells your parents, no one tells you, because they're all pretending that this is a girl. Like, so they're not going to say anything. They're not going to warn you. And so you just kind of, okay, let's do it. And so how did it go? Were you off just the whole thing? Were you off just because
I was really off. I remember, I think I made it past the first period, but I think kind of like the beginning of the second period, I was pinned. No chance. It was over. And yeah, I mean, y'all haven't seen me wrestle, but it's not that likely that I get pinned in a wrestling match because I am very flexible and I can get out of the worst situations in a wrestling match. And so it was just like, bam. I tried so hard, but it was like, I couldn't do anything. I physically couldn't do anything. And then when it was over, I was like, what?
Yeah. No, so when this is over and this, you participate, how did your parents feel? Like, how did they know right away? Did you tell them? Were they there?
They were there, and they were watching it, but we didn't find out till I think after the fact. And then they were like, oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they were really big on knowing too, like not a huge, I think they knew, but didn't really expect for it to happen, especially in wrestling, because it is such a physical sport. But I say, I was so out of the loop. But once that happened, and I actually wrestled the biological man twice. And
was it a separate school?
No, it was the same biological male that I wrestled twice because he was in the same weight class.
Mm-hmm.
And I think then I also wasn't still sure like what was happening because we were still kind of confused on if that was a girl or a boy. But once we knew like for sure, I made a decision that if I go against a biological male setup, I'm going to not compete. And I'm going to take a step down, even though it's really hard for me to do that because I just want to go. But I'm not going to put myself in that situation again. And I don't want any other girl to be in that situation.
And you're wearing headgear. It would be difficult to tell. And you don't want to be the person that's like making an accusation and have that not be true. You don't want to say anything like that without proof. Because so you're just like, oh, what is that, a boy? Is that a girl? I'm not sure. And so you want to be polite. I understand that you're not sure. You've never seen the situation before. But once it's confirmed to you and it's apparent to you because of the strength that this is a boy that you're wrestling, not a girl, then you've made the decision that I don't want to do this. Were there any other teammates that felt the same as you? And I'm wondering, because wrestling, that's like, That's a physical sport. That's very physical. So that's really intimidating to have to wrestle a boy when you're not planning on it, when you're on a sex separated team, a female team.
Yeah, actually, one of my friends, Alyssa, she's one of my wrestlers, teammates, and we kind of go, like switch a lot with our weights sometimes. And I was in a weight class lower, and she was in my like usual weight class, and she was actually paired up with the same boy. And she actually said, nope, I'm not doing this. I'm not wrestling. So she never even wrestled, because that was a little later when we knew that that was she said, nope, I'm not wrestling. And she took a forfeit, which was really hurting because she got out of the tournament. So, wow. Yeah.
Sophia, when you decided to not race, because you knew that the night before, you're crying already, you're wrestling with this decision. It's a big decision. You're applying for colleges. First of all, you love your sport, and you're also applying for colleges, and you know there's recruiters out there and they're watching. But you make this decision. Did your parents, were they aware of what you were doing? And you said there were some other friends, but was there anyone else that was considering not running as well, or not competing in that specific category?
Yeah, my parents, they actually found out before I did that this trans athlete had entered the competition, because what ended up happening is there's like a certain period of time where you can sign up, and if you meet the qualification, you're admitted into the track meet. And this individual waited until the last 10 minutes before midnight, before it closed, to enter into the meet, so there would be no repercussions. And so it was very last minute. My parents knew before I did, and they didn't want to tell me until like the morning of the competition, because they didn't want me to be stressing out about it before. But I got online and I found out on my own. And they told me, we prayed about it, and they said, whatever you decide, we're going to back you. And I said, great, I'm going to compete. And they said, great, we back you, we stand with you. And then in the moment I said, I feel like I'm not supposed to compete. And they said, great, we support you, we stand with you. And so I've had so much support from my family there. And then in the moment, my friend Maddie and Reese, they also stepped out. And then another teammate, she also stepped out with me too. So there was 4 of us in total that withdrew from this competition. And also the 4 of us that did withdraw, we were seated in the top 5, top 8. Like, we were supposed to place high at the meet, and we all drew out.
And this was when did this happen? This was last year?
Yes, this happened in April. I think it was about mid-April.
Okay, I'm going to look for some images of that. And so then what happened when you decided not to participate in that event? How did this all get on social media?
Yeah, so I think the first person that picked it up is Dave Brown. He lives here in Newburgh, and he has his own podcast, the Dave Brown podcast, and he's great. He is in full support of protecting women's sports and other rights. And he was the one that reached out to me and said, hey, would you and your mom want to come over and do an interview? And it's just sitting in his living room on his podcast. And I was terrified. I said, Mom, I can't do this. And she said, no, Fia, you need to do it. This is an open door. You need to take this opportunity.
Yeah.
So I did it. I was terrified. I stumbled through my words. And now here I am in another interview. And I've done other interviews too. And I'm so glad I took that first step. It was so hard to get going. But once I did, the story picked up momentum. America First Policy Institute, they approached me and the other girls, and they said, hey, we will sue. If you give us the go ahead, and if you give us your testimonies, we will sue, like, on behalf of you, the state of Oregon, the Oregon State Activities Association, our governor, Tina Kotek, our Department of Education, and the districts that we compete in. And so we ended up suing, which is crazy to say, but, you know, that's the steps that need to happen to create change, because our governor said that she is not going to listen to President Trump's executive order. Yep. And my state is in full denial of that. And so that's what we had to do.
Yep, that is exactly what you have to do. litigation. That's the only way. In a lot, I think even now, even with all that President Trump is doing, when you've got these blue states that are refusing to acknowledge Title IX, they're refusing to adhere to the executive orders, and they won't comply with the Department of Education, the Department of Justice, the Office of Civil Rights, and they are determined to erase Title IX, which is based on a binary, a male and female. Title IX, for those who don't know, 1972, it was just a paragraph, and it was a paragraph that protected female sports and provided opportunities for females in athletics, in athletic competition, in high schools, in colleges, and also academic opportunities. And before this, there was unequal funding, and there was an inability for females to participate in athletics. It was a male-dominated space. And so Title IX cleared the way so that women could, and women and girls like you, like my daughters, could participate in sports and achieve and participate in college sports. So when you eviscerate sex and you eviscerate the binary and you basically say that any man can say that he's a woman, well, then you erase Title IX and you erase all those protections. So I'm glad that you had this legal help. I am going to add to the stage right here. This is from the Blaze, and this was April 30th, and this is all about what you did. This screen is a little bit too large, but the 4 girls that refused to compete, and this is a major publication. And so, was all of this publicity really shocking to you? Were you surprised that so many people were going to get involved and support you?
Yeah, I was, honestly. It was interesting. Dave Brown picked up the story, and then Outkick picked up the story, and then I think The Blaze and a couple other media outlets did pieces based off of the one that Outkick did. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, kind of as it'll surge in the news, and then it'll die down. So it died down. And then state rolled around, and I had to compete with this athlete at the state meet. So that got back into the news cycle. And then Fox reached out, and other news sources. And then, then it died down again. And then we filed the lawsuit, and it came back up in the media. And so it's interesting to see kind of the ebb and flow of how the media picks up these stories or not. And I will say my confidence has definitely grown. It's still unnerving to sit in front of a computer and talk about my story, but I take inspiration from Riley Gaines and all the other women and athletes that have gone before me, and I'm just trying to do my part to protect our spaces.
And you are. And look, I love this. If we take a knee every time we compete against a boy, we won't have many more chances left to compete. That's 100% true. And I was talking with Jennifer Say yesterday, and she said that she thinks this whole thing is going to come crumbling down because of the high school girls, the college girls, and for that when you coming forward, you're going to take this down because the women in professional sports, they're not doing it. They're not doing it yet. We so far have one that this is just something that's recently happened. Elizabeth Eddy, who is an Angel City FC player, and she's come forward to say that she does not want biological males in her sport, and she's a professional soccer player. But like Jennifer Say said, she's been doing this for 11 years. She may not be a superstar, but she's the first one to take that risk in the sport and just say, no. And there'll be more, but it's going to be you girls. You girls are going to take this down. And then everyone later is going to pretend like they were always with you. Like, oh yeah, we agree. Yeah. And they're going to pretend like they weren't quiet. They weren't silent. So you guys are, you're the OGs. You are fearless, and the stand you're taking is huge in so many ways. But so back to, I'm going through this story here. and you write like outtake. So they're saying that the male, Leah Rose, won that competition with a jump of 410. That was enough to beat out 18 girls. And this is someone who had previously competed as a boy, was not ranked, did not do well in the male category, and now, oh, I'm a girl, and suddenly is beating out all of the girls. And that's just not fair. And it's huge because you were ranked number 5.
In the state, yeah.
Yeah, in the state. And for you to step down, that was a huge sacrifice. So, and I'm glad that you did it. And I'm glad that through it, you've really found your voice. Now, Maddie, let's go back to you finished wrestling this biological boy twice. And this is very physical and you're shocked. Your friend after you says, heck no, I'm not doing it, and doesn't do it. So what happens next? What does it look like in your school when with your friends, with your teammates, when you're like, I'm not doing that again?
I don't go to the school that I participate on because it's 1 team. So I don't really know about that. But for me personally, it changed my life. It really did, because I'm here right now and I'm speaking up, and I never in a million years thought that I would. And this is all because of XXXY and Jennifer Say. She's been like a big role model, honestly, from everything that she's done and everything that I've been able to do. It's all because of her, and it's all because of my parents. Because I stood up it all started with standing up at a school board meeting. That's where it all big started off with, is standing up at a school board meeting. And I got seen, people saw me, people heard me. And that's all I ever want, is people to see and hear what I am saying, and that I am not speaking hate. I am speaking equality.
And I have on screen the panel, and look at all of you with Jennifer Say. And this was Courageous Young Athletes Stand Up for Girls Sports. And this is where you're in front of almost 1,000 people attending, and cameras everywhere, because there were network news everywhere. It was streaming live, all of that. And you told your story. And so it's amazing. And it's an amazing story. But so you decided to speak at a school board meeting. What led to that? Because that's important. I spoke at many school board meetings, and it's important to do that.
My mom and dad. I was so unbelievably nervous. I didn't know what I was going to say. I had just came from a tennis match, and I wasn't prepared. I didn't know what I was really going to say. I was just so like, okay, let's go. I'm ready. I'm gonna do it. And I was kind of hoping that, because we were my wrestling team, we were brought up for getting second place at overall state, and so 2 of my other teammates were there, and I was hoping they would kind of speak too, but they were a little too nervous, and I was like, okay, well, I'm still gonna do it. I'm still gonna speak. I'm gonna speak my mind, and I was really, really nervous.
Which school district is that? I'm looking this up.
Thompson Valley School. I'll send it to him. Thompson Valley. I was actually from that. I think I was in the newspaper for that. And there was protesters. There was lots of protesters. There was so many protesters.
Oh my God.
When I got there, I was in my tennis uniform, and I was on all white. I had my hair braided. I was a hot mess, and I came there, and the first time ever, there was a whole thing of protesters. Like, I was like, I whispered to my mom, like, what's happening? What's going on? Because I didn't understand. Like, how could anyone be against of what I'm saying when I'm not saying any hate at all?
So here you are. I have the image right here. You did come from tennis, didn't you?
Yeah. I won my tennis match though, so I was in the pumping mood. I was like, let's go.
Yes, I love those. I actually wear those all around. I love when I'm not playing. I play pickleball with my friend, and then I like them so much. They're so comfortable that I'll wear them when I'm chasing kids around too. And they have all those pockets. But so here you are standing up. You are talking to the school board. There are protesters outside, and I'm guessing, because I've done this many times, that as you're speaking, there's booing, there's like some sounds in the background, there's the trans Tifa all around, kind of trying to intimidate, and you still went. And when girls your age go to speak to a school board, to their state legislators, to Congress, it makes such a big difference. Because I'll go testify and I will talk about you and I will mention your name and I will say that there are a bunch of girls and families that are anonymous that will send me messages that I'll meet, and they don't want to go public. They just don't have the courage that you have yet. And I think the more that they see girls like you, that they'll get stronger and they'll know that they're not alone. But when I could speak on their behalf, but inevitably those who are defending this lie will say, well, where are the victims? There's no victims. This is just a victimless thing. You're making this up. This never happens. My cat just, it's on my endless. She loves to come up whenever I'm doing a podcast. So when you speak, it really adds that legitimacy that there are real victims. This is really happening, and these are the girls that are dealing with it. So I really appreciate it when you guys stand up and at the meets, but when you come to the school board meetings and you testify to legislators, boy, it's, you could hear a pin drop. It's very, very effective. So what happened after you spoke to the school board?
There was a separate room that I came in, and people that I didn't even know came up to me and said, hey, good job. And then over like the couple next weeks, some of my students, like my friends, some of them, they said, hey, I saw you speak. Good job. And so there are supporters out there. And honestly, I tune out everyone else. I go with my own beliefs, my own ways. And if you don't agree with me, that's okay. But I'm not going to put anything against you, and I'm not going to show or be mean or angry against you. Yes. I'm just going to live my life, and I'm going to speak because I have the freedom to.
Yes, you're going to speak free. You're going to speak truth, but you're not going to match hate with hate. You're not going to match unkindness with unkindness. And that is the best thing that you can possibly do. Don't give them 1 ounce of ammunition. You just continue to speak truth. You stay strong, but you don't engage in the tactics that they do, because the world is watching, and that's why we're winning, because they see girls like you, and then they see these crazy people that are screaming obscenities, that they look unhinged. And as long as we stay true to ourselves and we're respectful, then that message really gets across. I'm reading in this article that someone who claims to be transgender in the Thompson School District said about the XXXY shirt, I feel it is disrespectful to wear a t-shirt that advocates for my oppression. That is not in service of the dream. We may not agree with each other, but we need to respect each other. So basically, your free speech, wearing a simple logo, XXXY, that confirms biological reality, that's oppression to this person, and that speech should not be allowed. Now, everyone who's watching this should understand that when they are not for free speech. If the wearing of Jennifer Say's XXXY gear is considered oppression, and it shouldn't be allowed on school premises or at a meet, that's tyranny. That is the silencing of voices. And that's a very shocking thing, I think, to say. What have you girls experienced this, that even wearing gear that says XXXY can agitate some people?
Not directly for myself, but I've offered other people, hey, do you want to wear my XXXY shirt? Do you want to borrow it for this, that, or the other? And it's like, oh no, I don't want to make people upset. Like it's so taboo to say biological reality. I just can't believe we're even in this spot in the first place. But I mean, again, like I love what you brought up about free speech and the principles that our country were founded on. You know, I could go out and I could start screaming and throwing a fit about someone's pride flag in their window, but I don't. We all need to have our own opinion, and I respect other people's opinions, but that doesn't mean you get to infringe on my rights.
Yes. If you want to wear a t-shirt, a pride t-shirt, fine. But to say that the wearing of XXXY gear, Jennifer Says brand company, to wear that is oppression. That's insane. And that is a violation of free speech. And that just goes to show sort of the worldview and the values that you must affirm me. And if you don't, you're not a good person and you're oppressing me and I don't feel safe. And it's just anti-American to demand that other people affirm your belief. You're allowed to have your belief. You're allowed to whatever religion, whatever ideology, whatever political party, you're free to engage in those activities and have your own beliefs, but you're not free to impose those on other people and demand that they engage in your rituals, that they participate in your rituals, and that they affirm your worldview publicly. And then to say that you can't even wear a symbol of your worldview. How soon, imagine if we were to say, you can't wear XXXY shirts to school or to a meet. Pretty soon they'd say you can't wear a cross around your neck because in my view, that's oppression. That wouldn't be very far from that. So I think we have to make sure that we keep standing up for free speech. These girls, you girls aren't making any statements. You're not trying to disparage. You're not trying to bring anyone down. You're just trying to say that in female sports, only females should participate. Actual females, biological women. You cannot just say, hey, I feel like a woman today. And I didn't do very well when I was a male athlete. So, I want to win some awards and I need a scholarship to college. So I think I'm going to grow my hair out and put on some lipstick and let's go. That's not fair. It's not truth. And it should not be, adults should not be allowing this. And they're letting you down when they do. How do you feel about the adults around you that won't stand up, that continue to affirm this? How do you feel as you're young? You girls are young. How does that make you feel about the adults in this country, the ones that won't stand up?
It makes me a little sad. And I mean, I know everyone has their own story, but what makes me the most upset is that they won't even listen. Some people won't even listen. It won't even go in one ear. They tune everything out, and then when it's their time to speak, they speak, and they expect us to listen. And you know what? We do, but they do not listen to us. And that is what really makes me upset, because I am fighting and fighting and fighting. Everyone is. And yet they are not able to listen to us. The people they say they want to support and help. Because we are kids. We're a part of that. We're a part of what they're wanting to help and improve. But they're not listening to us. They're not listening what I am saying and what everyone else is saying. And it's just, that's the biggest thing that upsets me. I once had a conversation with my dad. I'm like, well, no one's listening to me. What do I do? And, my dad, he says, don't give up. Don't give up.
Mm-hmm.
Because even when I'm in the lowest, my dad is there and my mom is there. And they say, you know what? If they're not listening, so what? Because I'm living this. This is my story and this is my life. And I'm going to continue to speak, even if no one in the gosh dang world will listen to me. Because everyone matters. Absolutely every voice matters, if I agree with it or not. And so that speech really just made me like, I gotta go. I'm not going to stop because one person or 50 million people aren't listening. Because someone out there is. And someone out there needs to listen and is hearing me and is not alone.
Well, a whole lot of people are listening right now, and I can guarantee you that. Maddie, so when you spoke to your school board, what was the vote? What did they decide? You were speaking to the fact that this is happening. I'm guessing they didn't change. Did they change their policy?
There was no vote. They didn't do anything.
They didn't do anything.
They didn't do anything.
Yeah, because I don't know if y'all know, but Nancy, she's the only kind of person who listens to everyone. Yeah, and so only one person against everyone else. It's not that helpful, and so not a whole lot can change. But and I knew that going into it. I knew it, but I looked them dead in the eyes, and I still talked.
Amen. I can't tell you how many meetings I've spoke at where I know that they may not vote differently, but someone might be listening, and these meetings are recorded, and someone could be watching. Somewhere this message is going to be heard. You are doing the right thing. Absolutely 100%. Alexa, for you. So you're a senior. Do you know where you're going to college next year?
I don't. I'm looking at 6 schools right now. A lot.
And is a consideration for you their policy on this issue?
Yeah, at this point, obviously Riley Gaines is suing the NCAA over this issue. I know that the NAIA division has already said, no, you have to compete in your biological sex category, because we have to say that at this point. We can't just say gender. And so I love that. I'm looking at an NAIA school. But I do think it's really hard because I have all these opportunities at these NCAA schools that, I don't know if I will have to compete against more male athletes. And, I am looking at some Christian schools, and I won't have an issue with any of my teammates in that setting per se. But
that's a private school.
Yeah, because it's a private school. But after experiencing this in high school, I'm not really fazed about college. It happened junior year, whatever, I can deal with it.
Yes. Well, there is good news, because there are 2 Supreme Court cases that were granted certiorari, and both of these cases are dealing with sex-separated sports and whether or not that's a violation of the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause. And I was just at a conference talking to a bunch of constitutional lawyers that work in the public interest space for conservatives, and they feel pretty confident, and they normally will not say that, but they feel pretty confident that the decisions that are going to come down probably by May or June, just like last year with Montgomery County and the Mahmoud decision and Scarametti decision, those came down later. They feel very confident that there should be some good news, and that would provide the protection that I think the NCAA could not get around it, because the question will be, they have granted cert for that specific question. Is it a violation of the Equal Protection Clause to have sex-separated spaces? and they say, nope, it is not, then I think that's more positive movement. Ultimately, it would be great if Congress would be able to once and for all define sex. I mean, we pretty much think they did in 1972, but if some of the legislation that they've tried to pass would actually get through, that would be wonderful. But I think that what's happening with the Supreme Court, that's going to be very, very helpful in blue areas, where, I mean, the governors, they're not moving an inch, and they're just filing lawsuits. And so, can only hope for more of Team Sanity to come together. And it's going to take girls like you. It's going to take more and more girls like you standing up. They have to. The more that there's courage, the more that girls like you stand up and say the emperor has no clothes, the closer we get to ending this absolute bizarre nightmare that we're in right now, where men can just say that they're men, and that women who call themselves feminists are defending it. It's just bizarre. So there's a lot of pressure, and you've talked about this. There's a lot of pressure on girls to just stay quiet, and the culture of a team in sports is to obey, right? Like it's sort of like with the military. Like, you work together, you're a team. You drill, you follow the rules. So that's kind of drilled into you very young. So it's hard, I think, to say, now you can't follow the rules on this one. On this one, you have to speak out. So what's your advice to girls when are told, just be quiet, just don't say anything?
I think something I would say is, what do you want to be known for? Even if it's not on a podcast or on national TV, your friends are going to know you for something. Your family is going to know you for something. And every decision we make is leading in one direction or another. Choosing to stay silent is going with, the majority of the crowd and saying that you may not agree that it's okay, but when you stay silent and refuse to speak up, that's just adding weight to the other side that's saying, oh, I guess this should be able to pass. And so I think if you're on the line, do I speak up? Do I not? Like, really think about, who do I want to be? And what are my morals? What do I hold to be true? Because if you can't stand up for your basic morals, then I think that's a hard spot to be in. And that's something to look at.
Yeah, 100%. Maddie, what say you?
I say do it. Just do it, and do it for yourself mainly. Do it for God, do it for your family, and do it for you, because you know what's right inside. You know that this is something you need to do. This is something you can do. Ask yourself, am I doing everything I can? Am I making myself happy by standing up? And I'll say this, I am 100% a rule follower, 100%. And to me, I am following the rules, because I'm standing up for what I believe in, and I am listening to myself. I'm listening to God. And that's the biggest thing. Because I would just say, do it. Do what you think is right, because it most likely is. And if it's not, that's okay, because God has a plan for everyone. And he has a path for everyone. And that path is for you to stand up and speak. Speak what you think and speak what you believe in.
Well, that's civil disobedience, right? That you follow the rules, but when there is a rule that is in contradiction to God's law, to truth, when there's a rule that would tear at your own soul because it would force you to publicly say that something that's a lie is true. Jordan Peterson has said that when you put it out there, when you say that a lie and you put it out there, it tears at your soul. It does something to you. I think you lose a piece of yourself. But when in the face of all odds, you're able to speak a truth, even if everyone tells you don't do it and you still do it, I think you develop a superpower because you're still standing after. And everyone told you, you should never do that. Don't ever do that. You'll get canceled. You'll be ruined. And you do it. And you do it anyway. You do it because it's the right thing to do. And then you find out that not only you're not canceled, you have a whole support system. There's a whole group of people all over the country, all over the world that are reaching out to you saying, thank you for doing that. Thank you for being my voice. Thank you for inspiring me. And parents that are so grateful, like myself, so grateful that you're doing this because you're making it safer for our children. You're going to make it safer for Riley Gaines' daughter. When you do this, there's a better chance that her daughter will never have to do this. And so we are all so grateful. And it's magic, it's courage, and I think it's the match that starts the fire, So I'm very proud of you. I'm sure your parents are very proud of you too. What is your advice to parents of girls that, let's say that maybe they're in middle school, they're about to start high school sports, and they're worried that they're going to show up at a wrestling meet and their daughter's all ready to go, and what do you know? Or their daughter's about to start a track and field event, and there's someone from the opposing team, and they're worried, and they're wondering, what will I do if I'm in that situation? What's your advice? We'll start with you, Maddie, and then Sophia.
I say, do what you think is right, again, and that.
Do you think the parents should encourage their daughters to stand up for themselves?
Yeah, I think that without my parents, I don't think I would be where I am right now and how confident I feel. Because when in my lowest, like I said earlier, they have built me right back up. They have been right by my side. Whenever I am upset or sad or hurt, they're right there cheering me on. So as parents, I say cheer them on and be their best supporter, because that's what they need. Even though they're upset at you or being having an attitude, because I definitely got one. Mm-hmm. But they're right there by my side, and I am forever thankful for that, because it is more than I could ever ask.
Yeah, and you knew that they had your back. Like, you knew you wouldn't disappoint them if you said, I don't want to participate. They were there with you. They were going to have your back, and they were going to be by your side.
Yeah.
Sophia, what about you? What is your advice to parents of athletes right now and that their kids are about to embark on high school athletics?
Mm-hmm. I think there's kind of two sides to it. One is that as an athlete, people are listening to our voices. As a parent, you can speak up, but people only will listen to you to a certain extent, which is unfortunate, but it's the sad reality. People want to hear from the actual athletes themselves, which is where the parent has to say, okay, maybe my voice isn't going to be heard as loud, but in that case, I'm going to support my athlete instead. And my parents have been an example of that. My mom ordered t-shirts before we discovered XXXY. She ordered Save Girls Sports shirts on Amazon. And at my state track meet, she went around and was handing them out and was like, do you want a t-shirt? Do you want a t-shirt? And everyone was like, no, who's this crazy lady? And then finally one person said, I want a shirt, thank you. And that's the courage that we need. When one person joins, then it helps other people join too. And I think also take advantage of the resources we have in this country. Despite all our issues, we live in the best country. We live in a free country. And so we came back from the state meet, and my mom filed a complaint against the state, and she emailed our representatives here in Oregon, in the Senate, in the House. She went and did all that work, and it's a lot of work, the legislature of it, but honestly, it's the practical steps that need to be taken, and it's the support that can come, because I want to be able to draft up all those emails but I can use my voice and my parents can support me from behind.
And you are 100% right that parents can only do so much. Parents can only say so much. It takes the athletes. And as a parent, it's hard because you want to protect your child, but they are going to have to learn to use their voice sooner rather than later. And their voice will make a big difference. So I think parents, if you can just show your child by example, but be there to encourage them to stand up and speak out. Don't encourage them to hide. Don't encourage them to cower. Don't tell them, oh, no, let's just try and keep this secret, and maybe things will change. I think encourage them to be as strong as you both, and you will be doing them a service and your community. And I found, based on what I found a video that I want to play, and it's the A1 policy. So hold on, we're going to get this up in just a second. All right, I'm going to start this. Okay, I'll probably have to rewind it a little bit. Let's go.
Who knows my daughter? She is not a crier. And she says, I don't know why I'm crying. And I said, I do, because it's wrong.
I got to the meet and I saw my friend Maddie.
And there's police greeting us at the entrance.
And we were just talking about what we were going to do that day. And we didn't really know what this trans guy looked like. We only knew which school he was from. And he walked by right at that moment, and I just burst into tears because I just had a lot of emotions.
Being a mom, having to watch your daughter cry when she's competing at something she loves is awful.
I had a piece about not jumping that day, and I didn't know if any other girls were going to sit out with me, but I just didn't care. I just knew in my heart, and I'd been praying about it, that I shouldn't jump that day.
I knew I wanted to stand up for what I believed in. And I knew that this was the best way to do it. And so I said, I'll join you, Reese. And I pulled out of the competition.
I was going to scratch myself, and that ended up being what I did.
We've put hours into this. We've put money and time into it. We've had hired one-on-one coaching for her.
There are potential scholarships, coaches, schools that would maybe turn me away.
Reese wants to compete in college, so she knew that moment was big as far as could this take away an opportunity for her.
Competition isn't bar to bar. I should be shooting for the best thing I can do that day, and having a boy there jumping would not allow me to do that, and it would be unfair.
We felt like we had confirmed that we had raised some amazing girls, that they had their convictions, they were willing to stand by it.
I do feel like most of the girls I talked to who were jumping were like, I totally support what you're doing.
A bunch of my teammates came up to me and congratulated me, or just were in shock of what I had to do and what I chose to do.
Afterwards, after the competition, after a few hours, I realized I was really upset I didn't get to compete. I was feeling really good that day.
When you're competing against someone that is just naturally going to be better than you because of biology, that's just defeating and deflating, and it's unfair.
I feel like I'm just very frustrated with people who aren't doing anything about it.
If we allowed this to happen now, I can only imagine when my 5-year-old is in high school what she is going to be faced with.
It's the OSAA specifically that is forcing schools to abide by their rules and allowing boys to compete in women's sports.
I think that's really cowardly that an association that's supposed to protect and uphold all athletes is allowing hundreds of girls to be affected at the expense of one boy's emotions.
Another person that's been really supportive of the girls is Riley Gaines.
We have seen failure after failure after failure, whether that's governorship in each state, whether that is the specific sport governing bodies, whether that again is the previous president, whether that is the judicial system. It has been so many failures where these young girls have to stand up for themselves in this way.
Connecting us with AFPI and helping us just move forward with what we should do next.
This is exactly why the American First Policy Institute brought this complaint to the Department of Education asking them to investigate the Department of Education in Oregon. So here, the law that was supposed to protect our girls, Title IX, is being weaponized against them.
I'm mad at our state government that completely condones this.
We need the leaders in the states to stand up and stop this in places like California and Oregon, where Sophia is.
We're demanding that you actually do something about this. We're not gonna just stand and be quiet. We're not gonna say, oh, it's okay. It's not. It's not okay.
API is reaching out, backing us up, giving us the names, the resources, everything that we need to actually make a difference in what we're seeing today and truly save women's sports.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. Wow, that gives me like goosebumps. So you had, in closing, we're getting towards, gosh, I could just keep talking. We'll definitely talk again, but in closing, what is next for each of you in athletics and in advocacy? We'll start with Maddie.
Or Maddie, go ahead, Maddie.
Well, I have wrestling coming up. I have tennis coming up. And I actually, a couple of days ago, talked to a medic comeback veteran, and I'm thinking about my next steps. And I think I'm going to go to an academy. And I'm thinking about being in the Air Force for the medic field. I talked to her, and honestly, to be honest, I kind of automatically like rolled out Air Force, because when I think of Air Force, it's planes flying, and that's not completely my thing. But talking to her, she spoke about every single aspect of it, and that's my next step, is because whatever my next step is, I love helping people. It makes me so happy, and I really think that this is something that I'm going to do. And so I think I'm going to go to an academy, and I'll be glad when I graduate high school. I'll have my degree in EMT, and I'll get my I want to go to maybe the Air Force Academy I'm thinking about, and I'll go there, and hopefully they'll have a women's wrestling team and I can wrestle while I'm there on the learning and getting my medic
your degree. So you want to serve, you want to help people. Well, my son just graduated medical school, and I have a daughter about to graduate nursing school. So I commend you. It's a huge commitment, and it's for people that want to live a life of service and helping people, and they love what they do. So if that's where your heart is, I'm sure you will love it well. And my son-in-law is in the Air Force too, and he likes it well. They have the best bases. The Air Force does have the nicest bases, I'll tell you that. My dad was a Marine. I'm a former Navy wife, so I've seen it all. The Air Force by far has the best bases, the nicest ones. So Sophia, what's next for you as far as in education and sports and in advocacy? Are you going to continue to, now that you've had a taste of this, like, do you want to continue to make advocacy a part of your life?
Yeah. As for sports and education, as I've already said, I'm working on getting better at track so I can get recruited into college, talking to coaches. I want to study engineering.
Wow.
So I'm excited for that. It'll be hard, but I'm excited. I think it'll be so fun.
Mm-hmm.
As for advocacy, I've loved this. I've loved every second of it. I've gotten to meet so many cool people and have great opportunities through this. I forget the name of the case, but one of the cases you brought up that the Supreme Court is now working on, they added my testimony to that case from my lawsuit.
Wow.
And so that's encouraging to have that in the works right now. And I've also been working with Jennifer Say and XXXY. I just signed an NIL deal with them. And so that'll be helpful to help promote their products, but then also keep putting the message forward to fight for women's sports and equal rights.
So the cases that will, so according to SCOTUS blog, breaking news, this is an hour ago.
Oh.
We will hear cases in January on transgender athletes, gun rights, and Trump's firing of federal governor. So the cases, Little versus Hecox and West Virginia versus BPJ, the oral arguments will start on January 13th, 2026. We will definitely be listening to those live. Where there's challenges to the constitutionality of laws in Idaho and West Virginia that prohibit, they say, transgender women, I'm not men pretending to be women, from girls participating in women and girls sports team. So this is it. This is these two are big cases, the oral arguments in January. So Sophia, you have arguments being submitted to the Supreme Court. Wow. That's huge. And we will be waiting on those decisions. Those are going to be really, really, really important. And then so you guys all better get ready because you'll be asked to go on TV again. Like you said, it ebbs and flows.
Exactly.
You'll be all feel like you'll get all these requests like, come on to media. So I have one. If you all are interested in coming to Wisconsin, we would love to have you testify for the Saving Girls sports bills that we are trying to get passed here. So if you are interested in advocacy, I would love to have you guys fly out. We have Jennifer flying out in February. So I will let your parents know. And if you all want to come out and talk to our legislators, and our people and our parents who would love to hear from you, the invitation is there because you ladies represent so well. You are so poised, so passionate. You're so inspiring, so young to be so smart. So like, I can't say enough great things. And your parents, I don't know them, but they have to be amazing because they've raised some really amazing young women. So I so appreciate you being on the show. You're speaking from your heart, and you touch my heart. So I know that you're touching the hearts of so many that are listening out there. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Scarlett.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us.
Yes.
It's great. This was my first podcast.
Oh, your first podcast. Great. Well, when it airs, I'll let you know, and then we'll have it on YouTube so you can share it and all that good stuff, and we'll really promote this. So, thank you, ladies, so much. And we will definitely talk again. I'm sure there's going to be some issues coming up. And the next time the Department of Education puts out a statement, I'll make sure I give you guys a call so you guys could comment on it. So you could be my regulars. You could be like my Gen Z commentators, like, hey, Linda McMahon just put out a press release saying that they are giving 10 days notice to so-and-so. I mean, there should be some good news coming from Oregon. I know that the Department of Justice has already issued lots of warnings saying you guys have got to follow the law, and there's only so long that they're going to be able to get away with what they're doing. It's not forever. So,
I mean, my state is embarrassing. Like, look at Portland. They've tried to deploy the National Guard, and it's a mess It's a mess in Portland and the ICE facilities. I feel so bad, but this kind of got pushed to the back burner while all the ICE raids are going on. But
yeah,
my state is stubborn.
It is, but it will come forward again because inevitably track season will happen again, and then there will be more of these athletes, these males participating, and more girls. Because of your example, they're going to say, no, I'm not going to compete, or they're going to do what Alexa did. They're going to get off the podium. They're going to find a way to be heard. And like you said, each girl, each family has to forge their own path. But whatever you do, don't do nothing. Because if you do nothing, then nothing will ever be accomplished. And if you live on your knees, that's not living. That's no way to live. Because the minute you cave in and you let someone take away your free speech and make you submit to things that aren't true, and that you know not to be true, then that's just the beginning of a long path of submission. And I don't know any happy people who basically have compromised their whole life. I know a lot of happy people who stand up and they fight, like President Trump said. All right, girls, have a great night. Go study. Thank goodness I'm done with that. All right. Thanks, girls, for being on, and thank you to your parents for helping to arrange this. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah,
Bye.
you too.
Bye.
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 How can you not be inspired by those girls? They brought tears to my eyes. Their courage is contagious. I think every time I feel weary, every time I think, this is just too much, I've been doing this too long, it's too hard, people just aren't listening, I'm going to replay this podcast, and I know that I'm going to find hope again. How can you not? How can we not fight when there are girls like this, when they are out there, when they're willing to sacrifice, when they're willing at their young age to risk titles, opportunities, friendships, when they have that kind of courage? How can we as adults, how can we stand on the sidelines? How can we say, too tired to go to that school board meeting? You know, I don't think I'm going to vote. I'm not going to vote this time around. I'm upset about something. How can we leave these girls behind? We can't. We can't do it. We have to stay in this and keep fighting until there's not one man pretending to be a woman that is invading a woman's space or taking the place of a female on their athletic team, on their debate team, on their chess team, on anything. It's not just because of fairness, although that's a big part of it. It's because of truth. It's because we can't be twisted into a pretzel and try to, find a way to compromise with a lie. We can't compromise with a lie. There are two sexes, male and female. Gender is just a word. It's a word that's now used to manipulate and force us, or force those who actually will believe it, to believe a lie. And I choose to live not by lies, and I hope you do too. So thank you. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Unleashed with Moms for Liberty. I'm Scarlett Johnson, and I could not be more proud to be an American right now, knowing that there are girls like that. There are girls like that. That means this country is worth fighting for, and I'm going to fight. So until next time, bye everyone.
Dear Nike.
Dear Nike.
Dear Nike.
Why won't you stand up for me? Why won't you stand up for me? Why won't you?
Why do you claim to support women and girls? Yet when we need you most,
you remain silent.
Today, males are claiming our identity,
our sports,
our spaces.
Men and boys are stealing opportunities, medals, trophies, and our future.
It is not fair or just.
In fact, it's often dangerous. Yet you refuse to use your platform to stand up.
You say you're for social justice and progress.
So why do you allow men's rights to come before ours? See, with a big platform
comes an even bigger responsibility.
You have a chance to do the right thing,
not just do the easy thing.
So we're asking you, Nike.
So we're asking you, Nike.
So we're asking you, Nike.
As the biggest voice in all of sports,
Will you stand up for me? Will you stand up for me?
Will you stand up for me?
Will you stand up for me?
Will you?
Will you just do it?